に歩いてる川のそばで風が吹いて冷ややかな愛の池で遠い空には星が瞬き二人ぼっちの物語東京の夜に夢を見る君とならどこでも楽しい音楽が流れて心地よく私たちの夜が輝く狭い道を抜けてゆけばカフェの明かりが揺れる窓越しに見る二人の影この瞬間が大切なの忘れないでねこの街を思い出が詰まってるから笑顔の君と一緒なら夜空さえも手のひらに
好吧，反正没办法放。
夜に夢を見る君とならどこでも楽しい音楽が流れて心地よく私たちの夜が輝く忘れないでねこの街を思い出が詰まってるから笑顔の君と一緒なら夜空さえも手のひらに東京の夜に夢を見る君とならどこでも楽しい音楽が流れて心地よく私たちの
激情四射。他怎么变这样？
れ星お願い君の笑顔思い出す会いたい一目だけ遠い記憶蘇る思い出に変わる今繰り返す何度でも君と過ごした日々池袋の夜にまた君のこと夢見る静かな街の中でそっと祈るよ
咬一口。
東京の夜に輝くライト静かな街並み星が舞う二人で歩いたその道を思い出すよ君の笑顔古いカフェに香るコーヒー雨の
看比赛喽！
リズムを奏で心の中に広がる夢君と過ごした素敵な日々東京君と見た景色胸に刻まれてる忘れない夜の風に乗ってささやく君
I mean, for me, I think Genji's early macro was not as strong against FlyQuest. I think T1 are the red side kings at Worlds right now because they get that counter pick for Keria. And against top esports, their early game was absolutely impeccable. And I think having that control in the early stages is going to set them up so well. Plus, they've got that man on the
They've got
screen behind them. I mean,
Reckless.
if you've got Reckless in Europe, I mean, that's a buff off the bat, right?
That's a great point. Yeah, it's awesome to see. You can hear it behind us that things are absolutely heating up rather. And we got to sleep an hour extra if you were in Paris last night. And the symbolism, it was not lost on me. Was it a sign of the times changing quite literally or the seasons ending and getting into a new one? And what is more apt as a backdrop for the match of today, whether it is Chovy, if he can usher in that new era. But he has to go through Faker, who has weathered every single storm. Who will make it to the grand finals in London?
Michel-Ange a dit « J'ai vu un ange dans le marbre et j'ai seulement ciselé jusqu'à l'en libérer. » Et tout comme il le dit, nous sommes nombreux aujourd'hui à travailler sur le marbre. Sacrifier tout sur son chemin pour réaliser son rêve. Le voyage n'est pas pour les cœurs fragiles. En 2019, Chovy affronte Faker en BO5 pour la toute première fois.
페이커 선수에 대한 첫인상은 일단 기본기도 되게 좋았는데 계속 끊임없이 심리전을 거는 게 인상적이었어요.
Mais ne parvient pas à le vaincre.
계속 뭐가 문제였을까 생각하게 되더라고요. 내가 못해서 졌다기보단 상대가 잘하는 게 많았고, 그래서 이기려면 그 잘하는 상대보다 더 잘해야 한다고 생각을 했던 것 같아요. 페이커 선수를 이겨야만 최고가 될 자격이 주어진다고 생각을 합니다.
초비 선수가 굉장히 뛰어난 선수이기 때문에 같이 맞붙는 게 굉장히 저에게 있어서 재밌고 스스로도 많이 배우고 성장할 수 있는 것 같습니다.
En 2022, Chovy a enfin pris le dessus.
제가 처음 우승했을 때가 2년 전이었는데요. 했던 말이 말도 안 돼라고 하고 우승을 했던 걸로 기억하는데 그만큼 마음의 짐이 많이 덜어진 것 같아요.
Genji continua de gagner à domicile. Ils étaient imparables.
처음 우승했을 때 그때 당시 목표가 리그 우승을 해보는 거였는데 데뷔 첫 시즌 만에 이룰 수 있게 돼서 너무 좋았던 것 같아요.
2022, 2023 et 2024. Genji a battu T1 encore et encore quand cela comptait le plus.
이제 첫 우승을 이제 T1 상대로 우승을 해가지고 감정이 북받쳤던 것 같습니다.
결승에서 많이 진 후에는 저희가 많이 부족한가라는 생각도 들게 되었던 것 같고 실망도 많이 했었던 것 같습니다.
여기는 LCK가 아니고 월즈이고 월즈는 T1에게 적합한 무대라고 생각합니다.
챔피언으로 참가했고 챔피언으로 떠날 계획입니다.
À ce jour, 53 victoires pour Faker. 52 victoires pour Chovy. Mais malgré toutes ces victoires, un sentiment d'inachevé persiste au fond de son cœur. Le rêve d'être champion du monde. Imposant et le fardeau. Pour l'un, le fardeau de rester au sommet. Pour l'autre, le fardeau d'atteindre le sommet.
Genji was pushed to the limit. They were pushed to the edge, but they were built for these situations. They were built for victory. They were built to win, and they will do just that.
페이커 선수 새로운 미래를 열겠습니다.
초비 선수 미래를 원한다면 증명하세요.
무거운 왕관의 목에 함께 짊어지겠습니다.
저희가 새로운 세대입니다.
T1은 과거, 현재, 그리고 미래입니다.
Bilibili à se présenter devant vous les deux derniers représentants de la Corée. D'un côté, champion du MSI en quête du titre ultime, et de l'autre, 4 fois champion du monde défendant leur couronne. Alors, mesdames et messieurs, pour vos deux équipes, Genji et T1! Sur le top lane, Green! En face de lui, dans la jungle, Canyon et son adversaire, Honneur. Au poste d'Amekai, Fer, et face à lui, Umayushi. Au poste de support, Léa et son adversaire, Kuya. Et enfin, pour le midnight, Jovi et Baker. Pour une seule de ces deux équipes, un embarquement pour l'autre pour inscrire son nom dans la légende. Alors, mesdames et messieurs, une dernière fois pour Genji et pour T1, que la dernière demi-finale des mondiaux de League of Legends commence.
Semi-finals. I'm Atlas. As usual, I'm joined by Chronicler, but we're also getting to welcome our friend Andrew Vedius Day to the LCK, which is absolutely fantastic. We're still at Worlds, aren't we? We're still at Worlds.
Yeah.
We've, of course, got a little bit of experience with this particular matchup, but there are a lot of very critical changes moving into this best of 5.
I mean, it's Worlds. It's Worlds. that really summarizes it.
That's like 98% of the changes, yeah.
I was like, wait, there were changes you didn't tell me about?
Throwing us up there, Atlas. It was such an emotional teaser, right?
Oh, God,
we were
yeah.
all getting choked up watching the. I mean, there's so much on the line. Under the banner of Genji, this is a barrier that this organization hasn't been able to cross, and now they face across T1, the reigning world champions. I mean, what an accomplishment it would be to beat them on what feels like T1's home ground here at Worlds.
And I feel like this weird combination of relieved today, but also nervous, because no matter what happens in this matchup,
we're going to have an incredible finals.
Oh, we
I think
certainly are.
the stories are just writing themselves for either team here. The main thing is, can we get a banger best of 5? And I think most signs are pointing to yes. And we're going to jump into the draft here to start this one off. And already, things are going pretty similarly to what we were expecting, except for maybe the Nidalee first ban to come through here from T1 to deny that from Canyon.
No surprises, T1 taking away the lessons here, and the real question is what happens to Yone? T1 is, I think, expecting Gen.G to ban it here. The smaller was their #1 answer that we saw them pull out. And generally, outside of that, under no circumstances have teams be allowed to get that Yone.
And the Ashe is the other thing that's such an incredibly high priority. With that Kalista ban, it is important, but I think a trade of Yone and Ashe is going to be how we start this best of 5. And Zeus is going to say, well, I might play it, but it's probably my buddy in the mid lane.
That's the beauty of this pick for T1. It is a flex between top and mid. We'll see what T1 do with it later on, as the Skarner looking to be the priority for Canyon. We'll see if they look to pair that alongside the Ashe, which you already mentioned, Atlas. The Rumble is something else to take into consideration. Yone plus Rumble is such a terrifying combo, and there are so many junglers that can help facilitate it as well. Sejuani is one that potentially comes to mind to really enable that mid lane matchup, as the Skarner locked in for Canyon.
And Canyon, obviously, we'd all love to see him on carries, but Skarner, definitely the strongest jungler currently on the patch, with the exception of that Nidalee that was banned away early on. Now, Gen.G knew 100% that this Yone was going to get picked up. We've seen teams do this, particularly in best of 5 in the first game, give it up. What is their answer going to be? I was actually expecting the Ashe to get picked up here early on, because it has been such an insane prio pick. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, so T1 getting Yone and Ashe right here on blue side.
I'm actually very surprised, because T1 had Sejuani Rumble just straight up and available for them. That top side has been so incredibly strong, and it fits their playstyle so incredibly well. But what this does is it hides where that Yone is going. It opens up the board and gives this bottom lane a whole lot of power.
Is it the Blitzcrank to come out
hope
here?
so.
Because if they don't pick it here, I do think it's going to get taken away. Is Chovy going to get his hands on the Silence here?
They're going for a bruiser topside on the side of Gen.G, looking to get down and dirty and look to try and scrap against T1. We saw a similar composition from T1 against Top Esports in their first game, where they were able to find great success, the key difference being a Renekton coming through from the side of Keen. Now we turn our attention to that jungle role. Gen.G, what are they going to ban away? The Sejuani, we already talked extensively about it as an option. That's going to be the first one removed. Do they want to consider AP threats? The Blitzcrank also discussing that. Lahen's very well known for his Blitzcrank. They're not going to allow him to have that one. Now you kind of move into uncharted territory. Do you also consider Rakan something worth taking away?
Yeah, I think Rakan's a really important one. Do they just ban the Rumble? Because it's still very, very strong, opens the doors for a lot more 80 heavy compositions as well. Certainly a lot of things on Gen.G's mind is what they could be taking away here.
The benefit here for Gen.G is that they will know where this Yone is going before they lock in their final pick. So we'll see, gives them a little bit more leeway. I imagine Pace is going to be picking up an 80 carry here on R4. As the Rumble does get taken away, Gen.G also still saying we don't know where this Yone is going. We haven't seen it for Zeus in the top lane in a while, but given his history, wouldn't be no surprise. The Ezreal going to get taken away. Extremely self-sufficient pick. That is very hard to punish, and I think the range, so you don't have to interact too much with the Ashe lane, quite big as well. What is Pace going to lock in here to go with this Bruiser style? Because it's really hard to find something that can play into the Ashe Renata, and might be a lane swap on the cards.
Well, I was going to say my instincts are something along the lines of Kai'Sa, but Pace no stranger to the Ziggs. It looks like that's going to be the direction, the safe wave clear. And I mean, you look at this top side from Gen.G, wave clear is definitely something that they're lacking, but I feel like Ziggs can be very self-sufficient, especially if Lahans wants to play and engage support. And I think that it complements the composition nicely. T1 now considering what they're going to put in the jungle.
A lot of different considerations.
A lot of potential options being flicked through by Gumayusi, teasing the crowd a little bit, but it is Ona. We're at Worlds, and his Vi is going to be the option.
Gonna have to be that. Oh, the Gragas locking as well. Also kind of keeps things up in the air as far as we're where these two champions are going. Of course, Zeus is an incredible Gragas player just in general, so it's not likely to go to Faker, but he's played it a few times.
Yeah, there was that random 3 weeks where everyone in the LCK was pranked into thinking Gragas mid was good.
Because Faker was just winning on it.
It wasn't. It was all a psych out. This used to be a really good matchup for specifically tank Gragas. With Grass, back when his sustain was a lot better, you could just completely stonewall the Renekton. He never really was able to get shoved. I do imagine, though, looking at the damage profile for T1, this is going to be the full AP variety, so maybe a little bit more carry or shutdown potential early on here for Gen G, but they are really heavy on the AP, and that's something that I do think we have seen be a problem for them before.
I mean, that's certainly true. The advantage is that Yone is a champion that very rarely builds things like the Merc Treads. He's very locked in his typical itemization build, along with the Gragas as well, who you kind of expect to go more towards that AP direction. I feel like that they should be fine. I think the biggest thing for Gen G is being able to play through that first item spike. When you have this strong, skirmish-heavy topside in Renekton, Skarner, Sylas, you're going to be looking to fight around Herald, fight for those early dragons. You want to draw T1 into those early skirmishes before they have that opportunity to scale. And I think that it's going to be crucial for Gen G to kind of force T1 into their game.
Now that we also know for a fact that this Yone is going to Faker. Faker, not one of our top tier Yones, but Zeka, BDD, Chovy, all right ahead of him. So this is a big test for him as well. Being able to perform on this pick would really throw a wrench into, I think, the drafting plans for Gen G. You would take a big gamble here with this Game 1 draft.
And Faker has found success and had some iffy moments on that Yone just in general. We saw Xiaohu not really pass that test yesterday. We'll see whether Faker, our other veteran mid laner, as far as our semifinals matchups are concerned, is going to be able to handle it. I don't think the GOAT's going to struggle too much. I think it's about how both of these drafts are going to function when we actually get into some of these brawls. But ladies and gentlemen, it is almost the moment that you've been waiting for. Game number 1 in our second semi-final of Worlds 2024 to decide who is going to be meeting BLG in the final. Oh man, already just a little bit of a defensive start. Not going to have those insane level 1s like we did in Game 2 yesterday.
The atmosphere is absolutely electric, and I think back to that spring final, the epic 5-game series that we had.
Where did those 5 games come? I'm still actually confused about where they came from. It shouldn't have happened that way.
I don't think we ever figured it out.
It's a shame that we were robbed in summer of them meeting in the playoffs, and I'm hopeful, well, we've got them here at Worlds. We get to see this opportunity.
Better late than never, eh, Betty?
T1 now setting up for an invade, looking to potentially set up for a swap.
All right, so I was saying that there might not be a swap, but there is. It is immediately spotted. Canyon's just going to move over to his blue side quadrant, so should be okay. Keen also going to be rotating immediately, getting the idea that there is going to be a potential lane swap in the air. Does make a fair bit of sense, but leaving a Ziggs in a bottom lane by himself is a recipe for plates.
Well, that's the big thing. Ziggs is a champion that even in top lane, because of his passive, you actually do a decent amount even for all the resistances. And if you are in a bot lane, it's going to be even more pronounced. T1, though, looking at the setups here, Zeus actually did go for Grasp, same for the mid laners, but shouldn't come as a surprise there. There's been a lot of Grasp mids throughout the tournament, even seeing it on ranged champions like Smolters, and it looks like Gen G is going to go for the variety where you do have Lahens just laning together with Chovy or Canyon, starting on the bot side, and looks like just the usual jungle split. Neither jungler able to steal away a camp.
Yep, just some vertical jungling to start things off here as Keen's just doing his best to zone Zeus away from minions. Of course, Gragas in a lane swap is pretty good at it. Teleport from Keen to get him towards that top side of the map. 3 versus 1 could be a little bit dangerous. Having hit level 2, I think he should be all right.
It's actually really nice timing. As he arrives, the minion dies and he immediately dinks too. So he got enough experience in bot to not be at quite a high risk of a dive. But even with that early attention being paid towards the mid lane, we do see Baker still doing fine. Bot side might be a dive setup here. Zeus is still fairly full health.
All right, let's see whether they can actually make this one work. You can see the barrel has been charged. Doesn't do a whole lot of damage at this point. Level 2 for Zeus does have that body slam. Going to use it immediately onto Canyon. Already down to 50% as Lahens is trying to tank that turret for as long as possible. One more is going to do it, but Pays almost just straight up dead. And Canyon, 2 turret shots, has to flash. And Zeus says, not today, boys. Lahens looking for another option. He flashes the Zenith Blade. Lahens able to walk out of that one, but he's still going to have to flash as Faker comes down to make sure his top laner stays alive.
A colossal blunder on the execution of the dive. Lahens can't connect the E. The tower aggro is mismanaged, and Gen G are forced to retreat on their first play of the series.
And Gen.G, I think, should count themselves lucky. That could have gone way worse.
Oh, yeah.
The Canyon unintendedly getting the aggro there was the big thing. I think it might have been Red Buff. He clearly wasn't expecting it. They were looking for the redive. And that moment, bot time for Faker to TP towards the bottom lane. Only good thing for Gen.G is that did give Chovy a little bit of time while he still has a teleport available. But T1 going to be feeling great about that, trading just that flash on Zeus and a TP for multiple summoners from Gen.G.
There were so many instances there where it was very awkward for Zeus because he was one minion off leveling up, but the cannon minion had aggro. Hang on a minute, a play.
Yeah, Lehan's Hex flashing in. Not going to find that Zenith Blade either. Good handshake from Carrier, and Keen taking so much damage. Lehan's got to hit those if Gen.G is going to find some tempo back in this game.
Wow, Gumayushi's Ash so prevalent and even causes the screen to freeze.
Yeah.
Lehan's 3 for 3 on misses when it comes to the Zenith Blade now. He needs to be able to connect those if he wants to set up plays for his team, but I question a couple nerves feels like coming through here from the side of Gen.G early on.
Lehan's known as a joker, but has had some moments. Him and Pace, I think, have throughout the course of this roster often been the most criticized. Has had incredible performances. Think back to that first series against Homa Life in summer playoffs, but then also often cited as the reason why they struggled so much in the actual finals. I do want to note the fact that Gen.G has triple teleport bailed them out a little bit because they were able to still catch that top wave, even with Keen being bullied out of that lane. Chovy could TP top, and Keen has now made his way to the mid lane.
Oh, that's very cute. Canyon being able to dodge the Hawk shot there as Chovy rotating back down, spotted on this control ward as Carrier taking some chain lash damage. Chovy should be able to get out of here just fine, no worries. Should be able to dodge some moves, and Faker with his Unbound Soul just going to be able to try and push this wave in. Of course, the luxury of being able to teleport to the top lane is purely because Faker had to use his to get down towards the bottom side, but good handshake going to come in here. Could this be first blood against Chovy? That would be such devastating news for Gen.G. T1 already with a lot of control, 600 gold in the lead, and Faker is really having a good time in this lane despite having to vacate early.
I mean, this matchup is quite favored for the Yone early on just because of how restrained Sylas is as a champion around cooldowns. He just doesn't have them in the early game to effectively trade against a champion like Yone who could just keep spamming that Q. The CS advantage, you rightly said, though, coming from the fact that early TP came through. And Chovy, he's going to be forced back to base very soon. He doesn't want to miss this wave. They're level 6. Faker threatening the potential ult there to try and zone Chovy away from that farm, but he will be able to get the can.
Yeah, level 6 gained as well.
Yeah, and with Keen being pulled around the map, we see that he's actually, even with the fact that he was able to catch that middle wave, he has had to really pay. Whereas Zeus, because he absorbed that early dive, has just been able to catch multiple waves, and I think T1 as a team always look their best when they get to play this aggressive, when the lanes are pushing and they are the ones dictating. As we see the Grubs now being started up as well, would be a really big boon, particularly for Faker that wants to use that pressure in a side lane. Going to be a Drake for Grubs trade. I do think an early Drake for Gen.G is great because obviously looking at their composition, the Renekton is going to lose a lot of value as the game goes on, but Sylas and Ziggs most certainly will not.
Yep. And, ooh, Cask, very close to being able to steal that one away. I do like an opportunistic barrel being thrown in as now potential dive towards the top side of the map. Lehan's with that Eclipse is trying to tank things up, doesn't really do a whole lot of work. That is another miss on the Zenith Blade, but also, like you say, minions are all going to die, so they should be okay at least for another crash.
Keeping my eyes on a potential cross map as both mid laners made their way up towards top. Nice follow there from Chovy, losing a little bit in terms of experience, but ready for the potential play happening on the top side of the map. Reset now come through for Faker, securing his first 2 items of the game, and we're in a very timid early game. Crucially, though, we talked about those first item spikes for Gen.G. Their biggest strength in the early game is the fact that they have Sylas, Skarner, Renekton on the top side that I think want to try and leverage this skirmishing power in the early game to try and force these objectives. And as you rightly said, Dragons are going to be a great way to try and force that. Get yourself the second, and then you'll be ready to force a fight around the third, maybe even look to contest the next Grubs.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of want to draw out a little bit and have a conversation about what these compositions are trying to do, as another Hawkshot is going to spot Canyon here this time around. Because I'm looking at Gen.G and I'm thinking, there is a lot of magic damage here, but also it's solo AD Renekton. So if you're not building armor, then maybe the Crocodile just eats you, which could become a problem if Keen gets accelerated. And I think that is what's so incredibly important about what you say, playing through that top side, getting those skirmishes. Because right now, I mean, we haven't had a first blood just yet. And I think that Gen.G probably hoping that some of that starts a little bit sooner rather than later in their favor.
Gen.G have often taken this role in games against T1. It's also something that's important to note. And it's not until we really start to see turrets falling or more impactful objectives go over, right? We talk about Soul Point, we're talking about 6 grubs, possible Herald, and the 6 grubs I think is attainable for T1. That alone is not going to be enough. There's a possible trap being set up here. Owner has that ultimate available, but instead, even if you don't actually get anything out of the play, like you're crashing this wave, you're getting the plates, and you're still putting Gen G further behind.
The key difference I think we're seeing in terms of impact in this early game is Carrier. Carrier is really making his presence felt in the mid lane, and remember, Chovy had a CS advantage because of Faker's TP towards the bot side of the map. So Carrier has spent like at least 2 to maybe even 3 minutes of this game just hovering around mid, making it awkward for Chovy to base at the right time, keeping him to stay for that extra minion wave, helping Faker chip away at his HP. And you look at that CS, look at that gold slowly shifting back in Faker's way. You can see 3 plates secured in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Lahens has just been shadowing his AD carry, shadowing Pays, just making sure that, yes, he can get that experience, but he's even behind Carrier when it comes to XP. So with the grub spawning in a minute's time, desperately he needs to get that level 6 to have that ultimate available. And I wonder if Gen G's actually eager to try and force a fight as the grub's now spawning soon.
And it's the opportunity cost for the 2 plays that they tried to go for. The dive was a failure, and then the topside play we tried to set up for Keen, trying to punish this pushing power of the Ashe and Renata, also not really working out. And that not only set Lahens behind, but also started Keen being in a bit of a tough position when it comes to catching these waves. And I do agree, I think Gen G, if they are denied a good fight, things are going to be very tough. Gen G has, again, I think been in this position before, but I do really want to highlight, we say that often, but if you look at their gold stats in the LCK, they weren't getting a lot of kills, but the amount of gold they generated early was actually insane. Like, they were sitting on, I think it was on average like a 1.5k gold lead, and obviously there was a meta that was textbook perfection for them, but it isn't like they were getting into fights without anything to grasp onto. And this game feels like that might be the case as the grubs are going to get started up. You see Gen G is looking to contest. Level 6 has been hit on Lahens.
Yeah.
Is that enough? 4 grubs are definitely going to go the way of T1 here.
Yeah, it's at least 4, but I think it's
the vision
almost guaranteed to be 6. So 5 are going to be going down here at least. Here for T1, no vision up and available at all as Pays can throw a Mega Inferno Bomb if he would like to, but looks like T1 are just going to cut their losses. 5 grubs is pretty good. Canyon going to be able to grab this 6th, potentially. Owner a little bit far away as now could just be a team fight in. Pays doesn't actually get over the wall with that satchel. Could be an important start to this fight as Chovy's teleported in. That's going to be the grub going down, but can they win the fight? Impale comes in, kept into the sweet spot, but the barrel is so good. Still, it's going to be Chovy picking up first blood against Owner, and T1 just not enough damage.
T1, they could have just taken the 5 grubs and left it at that, especially with the teleport coming in from Chovy, but instead they look for the 5v5 and Gen G punch back.
Yeah, I'm surprised that T1 chose to take that, because the thing we've been talking about, right? Renekton in this early game is just, he's just so strong. Ultimate alone is enough to be so durable, a lot of damage. And you can see how the engage was a little disconnected here from T1. It's going to be Owner diving onto the back line, attempting to steal the grub. Chovy on the side, and look at Pays' positioning. Perfectly safe, nice angle. The Ashe arrow gets stolen. Gumayushi really can't do much. While the barrel looks good, the front line dissipates, and T1 is immediately forced to disengage.
Yeah, it was a Dominus Renekton, and he was kind of okay with just slicing and dicing his way around. So even though it looked amazing, didn't quite work out there. So T1, they lose first blood, but they still have a lot of tempo around this map, unless Chovy has something to say about it after he does crash this wave towards the top side. 5 grubs, certainly going to be valuable as the game goes on, though, and T1 are looking to also even out the dragon count.
And the kill going to Chovy is a big deal. This Silas, we've seen how hard this champion can snowball when he does get a lead. He's able to very consistently force plays with his catch potential. And it's also something that the Chovy that we saw domestically, I think we've only seen in one game this Worlds, and it was that Game 5 Smolder game. Because his laning stats haven't really been comparable to what we have seen domestically as a trader for turrets.
Well, it's going to be 5 grubs, so T1 do have a fair bit, but Gen G, I think they're going to be able to cut this one down. Gumayushi also in trouble there as the Solar Flare does get cleansed. Gumayushi going to be able to make his way out. I believe that was Gen G taking it first.
That was, yeah.
And so despite the grubs, they're still able to get there with the slight lead they had as far as the turret health. So a bit of extra gold going over to Gen G, and that's going to very close to even things out here between the 2 squads.
I mean, what we couldn't really ask for more, could we? dead even game, 13 minutes
Maybe a few
in.
more kills, still just as even?
They're coming. Remember, it's game one of a best of 5. You don't wave the entree. You know, we're just starting
I'm sorry,
off.
just a little bit of patience.
Atlas is not a patient man.
I know.
I just want to keep
I
going,
agree
guys.
with you,
The
Vanny.
main
I'm with
course
you.
is on its way. I think what was smart there from Gen G is, I mean, they had to reset after the grubs. The problem is the dragon was spawning relatively soon, so T1 already back out onto the map in a position to secure that. Gen G leveraged the fact that they had that time advantage to secure that first tower. So ultimately an even trade. The only problem for Gen G is T1 can kind of sack the next dragon if they want to without much of a problem, and they can continue to scale up. Blade of the Ruin King is very close to being completed for Faker, and that is such a massive item spike for T1 that they're definitely going to be waiting to try and secure.
Now Zayas pushing another wave towards this top lane and does have quite a few friends around. Looks like Gen G did have a bit of information as to who was coming. So Canyon going to be rotating up. Pays also there, Mega Inferno Bomb in hand. The siege could be a little bit dangerous. Good handshake for the disengage as Canyon looking for an opportunity. Might be able to get in there, throwing some rocks around as you can see. Not going to go for any stuns or anything like that just yet. T1 are just going to be allowed to back away.
Crucially, look at Faker going back to base. He should have enough money for Blade of the Ruin King. This means that T1 are saying, we don't want to fight yet. It's not worth it. They're not going to overstay their welcome. The TP
Kraken as well.
The question is this TP going to be up in time to contest? The pings are coming down from T1. They have the Ash Arrow available to try and stall. T1 are saying they do want to fight this.
Looks like they're going for a great vision here with this ward, as you can see. So Ona completely on vision right now as Chovy with the Fate sealed, now stolen away or hijacked here as that's a solar flare. It's going to connect. Great Impale as well, and I think Area was there for a second, but now he is just gone. So the Herald goes to Gen G. They'll take a kill as well, and now Chovy looking for more as Faker just going to pop back to his soul. Zayas just going to body slam his way out, and Gen G, they really are taking these skirmishes.
Gen G's target selection in these skirmishes has been so clean every single time. One member is getting blown up in a barrage of CC as Lahens is driving. Always scary, but this time it works out for the mid lane turret. Gonna get taken low. T1 is able to defend.
Yeah, ever since Lahens got his license earlier in this tournament, he has definitely been driving a whole lot better than he was throughout the rest of this year.
We've seen some
LCK
things.
fan, you know, exactly. Very proud of him, though.
What we saw there as well for Gen G, and it's again, I think, T1. This one a little bit more understandable, but when Gen G have the setup, this comp is so hard to engage on. There's so much disengage, and the Skarner in particular, I think, has really been a big problem for many teams this Worlds. And even with Pays, I think his flash was forced in one of the earlier plays we saw. Didn't actually happen on screen. I think maybe when they were looking for the catch on Guma, but he was positioning so safely. There was no way to get on top of the Ziggs.
Well, now it's just Canyon and Chovy up here towards the top side of the map. 4 members of T1 in the area looking to try and push down this turret. They really want to take their second to even out the map state as far as these structures, and a teleport to come in from Pays just to make sure that they don't lose it.
See, Gen G are playing with their advantage very strategically because T1, like, the problem with the Herald was the timing. TP wasn't quite up for Faker. He needed to get that base off, yet they still wanted to try and contest rather than go for a cross map because the bot tower had already fallen. So rather than play for something like mid, they got over ambitious and they weren't able to make it work. Then what they did was they kept the pressure up in mid. So Gen G could secure that mid tower. They kept Pays there. He had the TP available. He then goes back to base and then TP's top. So while this Renekton is free hitting onto the bot tower, uncontested to secure that tower, they had the Ziggs TP top to then catch the wave and prevent the siege. So T1 is just losing on the map while Gen G is continuing to gain advantages.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have trouble liking Ziggs compositions, and I understand it's not exactly the most interactive when it comes to early game skirmishes and things like that, but what it does to a team that is very good at playing around tempo and macro that they are already good at is it's just basically a cheat code.
Well, it's as you were saying, Vaddy, because even if you do try to play for mid turret, they're like, Pays can just ult the wave.
Right, yeah.
And Gen G had so many of these Ziggs compositions, and it plays really well into their style, which is always trying to outtrade you. And now, what was a 1.5k gold deficit 5 minutes ago, T1's going to get this topside turret, so they're going to equalize it a little bit, but is still 1.5k gold for Gen G and a second dragon on the way as well.
And look at the map setup as well. Like, Gen G conceding that top side to get full vision coverage around this bot side of the map, pushing Zayas deep towards his tier 2 tower, making this very difficult for T1 to contest.
There it is.
And the Ziggs ultimate to slow down the siege. It's
Chovy comes on over, he's going to be able to clear it out as well.
It's annoying. If you're T1, it's so annoying because
that's stupid Yordle.
You're trying to cross map the best that you can, and it constantly gets interrupted.
Well, Canyon looking for an opportunity here, but Zeus just going to be able to take the red buff just fine. And so there is a win for T1, but they're going to have to do something to try and grab some control back in this game, because earlier on, T1 were in the laning phase able to get a lot of decent advantages. Yes, it wasn't translating into kills, but they were able to get some extra money. Of course, Gumayushi was very far ahead, still has, I guess, a couple of minions in the lead, but he was 20 CS up earlier on. That has been evened out. And yeah, this game state is all going to come down to, I think, just where team fights will finally erupt when these teams stop just trading objectives everywhere, as Arrow is looking to connect Handshake straight into it here. And I don't think this Leona is going to last very long. That is going to be T1's first kill. They're holding onto it as best they can. Faker delivered that one. Gumayushi says, you can have it, mate. Let's allow you to scale into this mid-game.
I think that's crucial as well, because Chovy has that slight advantage over Faker in terms of itemization, so funneling a bit of gold over towards Faker makes him stronger in the side lane, gets him closer to that stride breaker completion. Baron spawning him at 45, I don't think that's going to be a major point of contention this early on, but it adds that extra sense of pressure. We know T1's Barons are famous for both positive and negative reasons.
There's been a fluctuation throughout the years, yeah.
But I think at this World Championship, their Barons have been very good overall. And I think it's something that Gen.G will have to keep track of, especially after their experience against FlyQuest.
Well, Canyon, he's dashing on over. Faker, able to dash back whenever he would like to, but straight into the Impale! Another Solar Flare's going to lock down Faker, and he is likely to die. The bailout not going to work in Chovy. Yeah, he stopwatches, but now he's looking for even more. Zeus not going to get stunned up here, as Kane didn't have that off cooldown just yet, and Chovy is still smelling blood in the air. Carrier able to walk his way out, but it's another skirmish win for Gen.G.
What is Gen.G going to do with this? Faker does have TP available. It is very early, and I do agree. I don't think they can actually do this. Their damage to Baron, not nearly to what T1 would have, but it's a win when it comes to the immediate play. That's still TP invested, though, and much like the kill on Lahens, it's nice, but if they get like 2 more kills, you can probably look towards more. Instead, it's going to be TP for a kill. Gold going over to Canyon, who finally, I was going to mention, gets his first Heartsteel stacks.
There you
20 minutes into the game.
I love to see it.
I will say that I feel that Gen.G started off this game nervous. I felt like that there were some, like the sense of pressure, the atmosphere, the arena. While it is excited for the matchup in and of itself, there's definitely more T1 fans here than Gen.G. And we saw some of that in the execution. But now the game's slowed down a little bit, they were able to kind of play out the map. You can see the difference in confidence level, and the TP execution was the typical Gen.G that we're used to seeing. Really nice collapse from them. They did lose the mid tower, but ultimately Gen.G playing with a lot of control and confidence on the map. Their side lane setups are nice, their vision control is good, and now again, around the Baron, they're suffocating it. The good news for T1 is that, as you already said, Chronicler, they don't have a fast Baron. So T1, even if this Baron does start, we'll have plenty of time to react, even if there's not that much vision, thanks to Ashy as well.
I think it's actually so interesting talking about lopsided crowds in this matchup especially, because Gen.G are exceptionally used to it, and not just Gen.G. You look at all of these players just in general. Keen, has he ever had a matchup where he's favored over the last 7 years?
That's fair.
I don't quite remember when. He won his first LCK title only very, very recently. Chovy going to be fighting against Faker here, but I don't think there's going to be any big result, although good trade there for Faker. Chovy and Lahens got smashed by T1 in their very first final that they made it to. So they're used to it over quite a few years. And Canyon was the first one to figure out how to actually do it, you know, and then became a world champion. So getting over that hurdle has been very important for all of these players.
Yeah, T1 always has the home crowd advantage. It feels like one of the things that they are going to really struggle with, though, particularly with Zeus, I think kind of going, you know, partially AP, partially tank, but even he is not going to be that beefy. If you lose control of the map with this composition, you do have the ability to contest for vision just because you have the Ashe, but face checking is actually really hard, and many of the plays that we've seen thus far have just been Gen.G finding whoever is closest and blowing them up with the CC, as this rivalry goes a while back.
It certainly does.
It's the dawn of League of Legends, as we know it.
Because you got to remember that Gen.G, even acquiring all of the accomplishments of the former Samsung roster, right? Like, this goes way, 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 way back.
Yeah, and
back
there
when
were
there
multiple
sister teams.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. There were multiple SKTs in the league, multiple Samsung Galaxies in the league as well. Although not necessarily Samsung Galaxy, because it was white back then as well.
Atlas.
But I think we understand
the
the reference. I just wanted to make sure I understood the semantics in case someone gets mad at me.
And ultimately what we're building up to, and the reason why we're focusing on all these things, is because that main course dish is arriving soon. The fourth dragon of the game is going to be starting off. I ordered a banger team fight.
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm waiting for it to be delivered.
What about a T1
the
Baron
T1
instead?
Baron, like, so smart. They see that the dragon is being started off. The Ziggs ultimate is always there. They know this is started. Let's see how Gen G handle this cross-map pressure.
Yep, it's Chovy that's going to make his way over there first. Spotted by a T1 ward, as we can see. And there's a Mega Inferno Bomb just to guarantee that they know exactly what's going on. Teleport comes in, and yeah, there is no smite anywhere near this pit. Chovy, can you actually stop something from happening here? Is it going to be Ona that locks this one down? Ulti from Faker finds two. He's out of there immediately. Keen's able to try and chop them up. And there goes Ona, but they'll trade that any day of the week. They have the Baron buff as carrier, able to get the handshake beautifully. His position, amazing. As Lehens is in so much trouble, Zay's going to pick it up with a body slam, and Pace is slowed down as well. They're being separated and destroyed as T1 just dance on Gen G.
The main course has delivered as T1 smartly start off the Baron as Gen G tried to start the Dragon. They forced Gen G into this very difficult situation that they just couldn't answer.
As we look here, Chovy, I imagine his job is to stall for the rest of his team to arrive, but he steps too far forward. He stays alive for a lot longer than we were expecting, but it doesn't matter. That's such a big source of damage gone. And then you see, with Zeus threatening the backline, Gen G doesn't actually have any damage. Like, Keen is trying, Kenyon's trying, but it's a Skarner and a Renekton that's getting kited away.
The resources are divided on two fronts with Zeus, putting that pressure on the mid lane. Meanwhile, Ashe is such an annoying champion for Renekton to deal with. We talked about the scaling elements, and you're starting to see them come to fruition. The first major lead of the game, while it's not represented in the gold, goes to T1.
The soul point did go to Gen G, and that's something that they are going to try and hold on to. What can T1 get with this Baron? Bot side push is going to come through, but do remember, as long as Pace is in the lane, the wave clear is still going to be very annoying to deal with.
Yeah, especially when there's side lanes that are sort of pushing naturally towards Gen G. You can tidy those up pretty comfortably. Right now, Gen G doing a decent job being able to remove these minions. 5 Grubs and Baron, though. It's going to be very, very difficult to stop T1 from taking these tier 2 turrets. Is going to be their option. Is now Chovy up here towards the top side of the map, fighting off against Faker, who's happy to go underneath this turret. It's so much damage.
Well, so
coming on through, and so Chovy is going to be okay, but this does not bode well. Party cast? No, it wasn't.
This is why I was a little surprised by the Sylas pick, because you kind of don't beat Yone in lane, and then you don't really beat him in a side lane either. There's this sweet spot in the mid game where you can maybe get advantages just because your skirmishing power is stronger, but right now Chovy's struggling to match that of Faker in the side, and T1 putting pressure everywhere. Tier 2 towers secured in top lane. They've transitioned over to mid. Now they have another wave in bot. Gen G's been dragged over towards the mid lane. That tower's going to fall. Gen G in game 1, slowly losing more and more control over the game.
3K gold lead now for T1, even though the first minute or so the Baron, they weren't able to find anything. It's the setup afterwards. This team has perfected these Baron plays. Kenyon!
Going to connect. Kenyon delivered. He finds an Impale, but he has no friends. The inner turret goes down. Hostile takeover to deliver Lehens. As Keen with the dominance just trying to distract them. In goes Lehens, trying to take them away from his inhibitor turret. But he's going to be separated from his body. And that's going to be a kill going over to Gumayushi. Only needed to invest a cleanse, and there are only inhibitor turrets left for Gen G.
And T1 watch Gen G walk into their depths again and again and say thank you very much. The inhibitors stand, but the gold lead keeps growing.
And Faker just toying with them here on this bottom side of the map. Man, it really just feels like a big swing back. So much it was give and take in this game, but now T1 are just saying that they're going to have it all.
The pick potential of this roster is something we didn't get to talk a lot about, but you can see it clear as day. The Ashe arrow into the Gragas ultimate makes it so difficult to protect the target that gets locked down. Lehens doing what he can to try and catch Gumayushi out, but it's just not enough. And the game is quickly snowballing in favor of T1.
Yeah, Lehens not feeling too happy about it. You can see the GOAT as well, not celebrating yet. This is game 1. 5,000 gold is the approaching gold lead for T1. They have so much map control. They should be able to deny the rest of the Dragons. They can get their ducks in a row as far as these lanes are concerned. And Gen G back out onto the map now, trying to steal away this blue buff, and they will be able to do so.
Notice on the map, though, that Faker's pushing out the top wave. Mid has kind of been sacrificed. no one is actually in a position to catch it. Carrier is the one there to try and hold the wave. Guma's going to have to go the long way round. They've gotten push in bot, which means that Chovy's going to go and answer, but ultimately the river has been conceded. Gen.G have purchase over that area of the map, while Faker's remaining top has the TP available. Let's see how this one plays out.
Yeah, playing the side lanes very well is Faker, as we can see, going to immediately teleport into the mid lane as that wave crashes forward. Keen, he's got his teleport up as well, but he's going to be behind the play just a little bit. There's now Carrier looking for that opportunity. Hostile takeover, 2 seconds. Now it's back up and available. T1 are ready to fight.
Gen.G can choose to give this up. T1 only have a single dragon, but it looks like they don't want to give him the opportunity, maybe feeling like in the late game they can't match. Gen.G gonna try and go for a Hail Mary here.
Yep, Chovy's got a cask at the ready. It is going to be Ona denying that soul, and now T1 starting off the fight. Can Gen.G actually find an angle as hostile takeover comes in? Carrier, he's tried to bail himself out, and it's going to work for now. The Impale is good. They take down Carrier, but can they deal with the carries? That's the question. Chovy starting to pop up, and so is Komayushi. Chovy's cut down. More arrows into his back, and he knows that it's done. Flashing forward. It's a triple for Goober, and that should be the game.
He still hasn't died!
Oh my, 8 games in a row, I guess, gentlemen.
T1 and the final team fight of game 1 will snuff out Gen.G. A full-on ace at the cost of their jungle and support. The Nexus in their eyes, 30 minutes in. T1 remain the gatekeepers of the World Finals, and they'll say you'll have to try better than that if you want to make it to London.
Nexus turret number 1, Nexus turret number 2, and T1 will take the first game in this best of 5, and we'll see whether Gen.G can do better in game 2. So one of the things that I feel was missed, and there was not a lot missed from our teaser today. It was one of Phil's best things ever, but one of the things that was missed is that not only do you have to beat Faker to be the best, you always have to beat Faker to be the best. And they're not quite doing it yet. Faker still remains the GOAT, and he probably will forever. It's time for us to go to a break. When we get back, game number 2, we're gonna break down that game number 1.
Install any official LoL esports mod from GX Store to unlock bonus content and features. Browse the collection and choose a mod. Open GX Corner and scroll to the Riot section with a brand new co-streaming hub. Set your language and choose a stream. Only on the browser for gamers. Only on Opera GX.
And if you're wondering why I move the way I do, I just feel so good, good, good. I just feel so good, good. I just feel so good.
数不清有多少个这样的时刻，闪现向前，焦灼，欢呼，沮丧，再来。没什么比这一刻更好。
Solar Flare. It's going to connect. Great Impale as well, and I think Carrier was there for a second, but now he is just gone. So Chovy, can you actually stop something from happening here? Is it going to be Ona the last one down? Ulti from Faker finds two. He's out of there immediately. Keen's able to try and chop them up, and there goes Ona, but they'll trade that any day of the week. But can they deal with the carries? That's the question. Chovy starting to pop up, and so is Kobayushi. Chovy's cut down. More arrows into his back, and he knows that it's done. Flashing forward. It's a triple for Goober, and that's
젠지는 정말 강력한 팀이고 저희가 높은 무대에서도 젠지에게 많이 패했었는데 작년에 진동도 좀 비슷한 느낌으로 되게 강한 팀이었지만 이긴 기억이 있기 때문에 저희 구마유시 캐리어 듀오는 세계 최고이기 때문에 당연히 이길 수 있다고 생각합니다.
Yes. Is it going to be a similar story? Well, Gumayushi was on that Ashe and did really, really well. And I just want to take a minute to talk about this entire first game, because as we were watching it, right, we go, this is kind of what you lay out. Gen.G, such a good team, such good macro coming out of that early laning phase, having full control, but you're waiting in trepidation because T1 is clutch. T1's gonna do something, and did they?
T1 Barons! When I think of this game, and when everyone thinks of this game and they're looking back, they're going to think of the big Baron.
Yeah, why didn't Gen.G?
Well, I mean, this was a really good call. You could see that Dragon was taken, Skarner was gone. You need to get the TP in, but Faker with this ultimate as well was clutch, and that's why it's part of the reliable Cisco network for every second counts. It was absolutely insane to see just how clean they were on this play.
And then look at the re-engage from Gen.G here. They actually split. So Pays is the big damage still alive. He goes down, focusing on Zeus, while Canyon flashed the other way to get a double Skarner ult, but there's no one there to follow up on his double Skarner ult. And so then T1 can get so much out of this. It's not just a T1 like sneak Baron. It was over a 5,000 gold Baron power play with that Baron. They got all three of the secondary towers and more kills because of Guma's Ashe, able to hit the arrow on Canyon as he's like standing by the tower for even more gold, and it was just such a snowball.
I just think Ashe is a big pick, and maybe you should consider it instead for Nectin.
And a Gragas
yeah, that's what I really wanted to bring up in that fight. Gragas is such a good pick against what Gen.G want to do. It's able to split up fights. Zeus had an insane performance on that pick. It's something we saw earlier in Swiss, and I'm so happy to see him bring it out again.
Yeah, it was and the Renekton in comparison was kind of useless in conclusion.
mean, because you remember back to the early game too, the Gragas already showed up. Zeus outplay under tower during the lane swap. Got also Owner a bit ahead because he was able to get extra camps because Canyon was down there taking damage. So yeah, really big props to Zeus again on his Gragas.
I have a surprise video for you because someone's in the crowd who wasn't entertained apparently. Let's take a look. I think maybe they should be scared, but they're not. Oh, did I just tease it and it's not good? Look at Alec. Oh, no!
The yawn!
Super cut. He's just...
Oh, my God.
No! What's up with that?
Maybe he was out last night. Who knows?
Oh, partying? Okay, I get it. It would be allowed. It would be allowed. Oh, this is not a replay, by the way. This is consecutively.
Yeah.
Hey,
oh, my God, Al, come on.
I also,
come on, man.
I like how Bin is locked in, though.
Yeah,
he's like
Bin is locked
laser
in.
Well,
focused.
as we know, he loves Zeus, so he needs to
that's true.
be
He's
infatuated with his
studying.
play.
He's studying.
You know?
Like, I need to pull out the Gragas next time.
yeah. Let's go back a little bit to the beginning of the game as well, because there were times, I guess, that T1 was in a position where they had to clutch it out later because it didn't necessarily go ideal around the Grubs or the Herald.
Yeah, and I think the second Grub fight is the most egregious one, I'll say, because there was really not a lot of reasons for them to fight over this 6th Grub. Obviously, yes, you do want to get that, but they already had the 5, and this was so easy for Gen.G to just go in.
It's also that you have no smite on your jungler. Gen.G have a smite, and you already had that opportunity to just push in bot because Zeus had TP'd late. So you had a ton of options there for T1, but then we come into the Rift Herald fight as well, and this was strange because you'd already had the double resets coming through from Gumayushi and Faker. They were going to be late, and to me it felt like T1 were just trying to push Gen.G onto the top side of the map so they could collapse back onto mid wave and take the mid tower, but Keria oversteps and ends up getting caught out, and it completely falls apart for them.
Yeah, I felt like both of them were strange because the first one, Owner engaged onto the Leona there instead of even actually going for it, and then like you say, Carrie is just standing around, and there's a Leona with the ultimate ready, so you have to expect that the attempt for the pick is going to come through.
Yeah, and I think the big thing coming out of that is I actually did like T1's look in the early lane swap. They seem to really, really know what they wanted to do. They used the Gragas pick, to your point, Kobe, where it's so hard to dive a Gragas even super early on. And so going forward, I'm interested to see what Gen.G do. This was a risk, leaving the Yone pick open, picking the Renekton over the Ashe or something similar. So we'll see.
And that's why I want to keep my eyes on Keria coming into this game. He was a monster in this early stage, constantly roaming towards Faker, leaving Gumayusi by himself, getting that early control, and Lehens needs to control him. Lehens did not do a good job in the early stages, and now coming into game number 2, he needs to step up big time. He wasn't good in the last series, and now again is struggling against Keria.
I love it that you give this directive, that you call him out. I mean, it's true because, you know, this is only a game 1 in a best of 5, but every game counts for a reason. You're going in now with more information for T1. You can be happy with what you showed. Gen.G's going to be on the blue side, and it's a chink in the armor already. And the question is, can you now fight back and make sure that they don't get you to your knees?
So exciting. What an exciting start to this series. I mean, an explosive big Baron. We saw, like we say, some stumbles in the very beginning of the game. But game number 2, we'll see the adjustments as they swap sides.
Well, Atlas, will Gumayusi finally die in this game 2?
I don't think so. I mean, I haven't seen anything that's going to prove that's going to happen, so I'm feeling that maybe he'll just cruise through this one as well. We'll see whether the Nexus dies, but I think that's going to go down before Guma does.
Yeah, Atlas is a fan, famously, of small sample sizes, but this we're getting up there. Okay, it's 8 games in a row now.
This is becoming a medium sample size. You know, this is getting real over here right now. So we'll just have to see. I think if T1 are going to win, it is going to be one of those games where they should be able to roll over. But I think that there's going to be a lot of adaptation moving into this champ select, brought to you by Omen and HyperX. As already, Gen.G once again banning away the Xayah here, this time on the blue side.
And this should give us a really good indication of how this series is going to look like, because in game 1, Gen.G were on red side and took a lot of risks. If T1 is able to get a 2-0 lead, breaking them on red side as well, it's going to be so much harder to fight back. Going to have to be a really big pivot as the Smolder, even with the Yone not being in the game, is taken away.
Now, I do think that Gumayusi's pool at this World Championship is pretty much those 80 carries on a screen. Now, admittedly, we've seen him play Caitlyn, we've seen him play Draven, but Ezreal and Kai'Sa, the usual de facto go-to meta 80 carries that we're seeing often, are not his priority. The question then becomes, where does Ziggs fall on the totem pole? Because we saw how effective it was for Paze and his ability to stall out the game, but is that something that T1 want to try and prioritize? And if they do, what do they then put mid lane to complement?
And I was going to say, this Skarner pick does seem to make a bit of sense based on how much Canyon has wanted to play it. The amount of success, though, isn't necessarily giving us a lot of joy. But what's the other option? It's now Caitlyn and Kindred.
Caitlyn, right.
All right, there we go. There are some 80 carries.
It's Gumayusi. Well, I mean, of course, he's going to pick a lane-dominant 80 carry. And the lane swap meta, I debate how effective it is. But the biggest surprise to me is the Kindred coming out from Owner as an answer into the Skarner.
That's some shades of 2022 that I'm seeing here with the Kate and Kindred. And do note, Nidalee this time around was not banned. And that is something that Canyon, we saw even in the series against FlyQuest, has very heavily relied upon. And Gen.G, the Jax, obviously a good adaptation. The Renekton didn't really hit last time around. Is available this time as well.
It's also very good into double 80 carry,
exactly. Right? But the Ahri thus far hasn't really sparked a lot of confidence. Faker can just go for the Silas, and I know it's a supposed counter pick, but that's not really how the games have played out thus far here at Worlds.
But if they wanted Gragas again, they had to take it right there. Gragas, decent matchup into the Jax, and if you have the Kindred, you kind of want to get things that are bad guys off your Lamb's Respite to get the most value, so that could have been another great pickup. But it's going to be the Braum instead. That is going to be just the power lane here for both Gumayusi and Keria, but they're going to need some engage from somewhere.
I mean, so the Lulu ban caught me off guard a little bit, but the logic is mainly Lulu's very good into Braum, and there's the realistic possibility of Paze. We've already seen Twitch, not that I'm expecting Twitch in this draft, but a potential hyper carry to pair up alongside of Lulu could be an effective answer. So that's going to be taken away. The Galio going to be banned away at the idea between a potential Camille plus Galio plus Kindred combo coming out from T1. Bit of an old school, but definitely a classic. That respect, along with the Renata, now taken away by T1.
Yeah, it gives them some engage options as well. So trying to take those off the board as much as possible, as there is the Renata ban as well from T1 side. Of course, another option that's pretty good into the Braum.
Saw it as well in the BLG series, obviously in that game 4, Hanwha versus BLG. A lot of shenanigans happening with that. Galio, the Gragas, I do agree with you, Atlas, seems like a no-brainer, but that is not going to get taken away. That is good into Jax. Zeus just came off of a great game off of it, and it synergizes really well with that Kindred.
Maybe Genji has a plan into it, or something like that, because you could imagine that they do have it pretty fresh in their mind, that is a likely pickup. The Maokai going to be a consideration, though. That could be the support option or a top option.
We saw that from...
No, it's not going to be support. I don't think Braum jungle is going to quite be happening here.
Why am I blanking? It was Bree. Bree this week I saw it from yesterday. Yeah. I think it's a pretty good matchup into the Jax, in all honesty, and you get so tanky. I don't love Maokai as an engage, just because it's so slow and it's very, like, slow. Sorry, slow, I said that twice. It
is slow, and possibly slow as well.
Exactly, yes. I'm fascinated as to how they're going to round this draft out. You're expecting some sort of AP mage to come through. Genji kind of sticking to this idea of diving with Ahri, Kai'Sa.
Yeah.
Give me the Blitzcrank. Do it, Lance. Don't be scared.
No, I imagine it's going to be something like the Rel or the Leona.
Yeah. Rel makes a lot of sense. So they're effectively playing full dive into Braum, Kindred, and Maokai. Which
they are.
That does not sound great. If you are Gen G, and I got to give credit to T1, I think Gen G thus far have been very predictable in how they have drafted and the priorities that they've used. And some of these individual champions, they've just not looked that good. And Keen on Jax, that's great. But Canyon on Skarner, Chovy's, Ahri, and Paze, even going back to summer finals, wasn't really able to have the performance that I think you ideally would be looking for. And then you have a ton of comfort for T1. I think the only thing that you lack is engage, but the counter engage and your ability to be, if you're first in an objective, to deny any area access is out of this world.
I'm also kind of surprised because when we see 380 carry bans, like, the direction that Guma's going to go is quite predictable in a sense. And it feels like that they haven't really provided a good response to this Caitlyn. I guess the idea is that they get their hands on the Jax, which sure into 80 carries is good, but I think your point is so potent in this game about you are very short range into Braum, Kindred, Maokai. I'm fascinated. Like, ultimately, T1's engage is very low. It's not the strongest. You're very reliant on Maokai, maybe Silas stealing a good ult, maybe a Skarner ultimate or a Rel ultimate to start off a fight. But I think T1 have cooked, and I like the dish that they prepared.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think that not having a lot of engage only matters if you lose the range battle. But I think they're doing okay in that regard.
That's true.
When that sort of is one of the concerns. And when you can throw saplings around to get as much information as possible, I mean, Zeus should be able to just face check anything that he would like later into the game because he's going to be a walking fortress. I think that once again, T1 are coming out of a draft looking really, really good. And this time it's on the red side. And Gen G fans might need to start getting nervous unless they can find some angles. But it is now time to get onto the Rift and see whether they can put their money where their mouth is as we jump into game 2.
The other thing is zone control. Caitlyn traps, Maokai saplings, as you highlighted. You said that Zeus could pretty much face check into anyone, right? Because, you know, he's Maokai, he's a tank, he can also use the saplings, a lot of safety. Good luck face checking into Braum, Caitlyn. Like, that is a horrifying thing to have to face check into. And the problem is that even if Genji is first on an objective, throw the Maokai ultimate, zone them off the objective. You then regain the space. Once you have the space, trap. Like, and now you've got to walk into us again. I think that the idea of playing around objectives, I'm going to be fascinated to see how Genji navigate their way through that. I think flanks and vision control is going to be so important for them.
Chovy's going to have a really good laning phase for starters. Did go, by the way, Genji loves the resolve tree, as we can see.
I mean, Chovy just loves grass.
He does love grass.
It's just another like thing that he can access some dopamine from.
Yeah,
you know?
So Chovy needs to do a good job. I also think that Keen, if he does get his matchup, should be able to get the shove. But the problem is you don't really want to 2v2 as Kai'Sa Rel into Decayed Braum. So you're incentivized to lane swap so that your bot lane can survive, but also you kind of want the Jax to match the Maokai, because Maokai early doesn't really get to do a whole lot. Looks like it is actually T1 that is going for the swap here initially, playing 2v2 mid.
You'll notice that Guma was hovering around mid for quite a while, which means that he was quite late to the top wave. On top of that, Zeus was denied from farm on the bot side of the map. So already this lane swap isn't ideal, optimal for the way in which T1 is setting themselves up for success. Carrier has been hovering around mid. He's going to get level 2 very quickly. He's already on his transition over to bot lane, knowing that, hey, if I get one more minion, I'll level over. That's fine. I don't need to take any more XP away from Faker. Jungler pathing topside, those kind of you'd expect. Oh no, which means that the threat of the dive is coming.
Yep, Carrier is going to get stunned up here by Lehens as he makes his way in. Level 2, only level 1 for Carrier. He's burning down, he's dead. That is going to be first blood going over to Canyon, and they'll take some plates to boot because Zeus now finds himself in a whole lot of trouble. Might have a twisted advance to try and outplay some stuff. That Arcade Smash was pretty good, or the Bramble Smash as it's known now, as Canyon underneath this turret has to flash. He's able to dodge the turret shot as a couple more autos are needed. It's Pacer locks it down, almost dies, and somehow they navigate the dive.
Game number 1, the dive of disaster. Game number 2 puts Gen.G back on the right track. A kill for Pace, and so many resources for T1 going to waste.
I mean, that was perfect execution from Gen.G. They punish the rotation from Carrier, they get him before he gets level 2, and then they manage the tower aggro phenomenally. This is the Gen.G we were expecting.
And this is exactly the Gen.G that we need to see in this game if we want it to get to a best of 3.
Which we do!
They have to start early if they want to get some of these advantages. You already said that the script is written for how fights are going to go later on in the game, and it's not very fun if you're not on T1. So Gen.G, they have to be able to snowball this forward and see what they can do, because it's not over yet. They need to get more leads.
Canyon is quite far behind in terms of camps, is the biggest downside for Gen.G. You'll notice that he's only managed to get through his bot side. Oh, flash once again from Carrier. I say again, I mean, he didn't get a chance to flash earlier, but Canyon putting pressure down, I should say, onto Carrier once again, as Faker going to be zoned away from what farm he can. He's doing a pretty good job so far in the mid lane matchup, but at the bottom of your screen, it's a suave shade of blue.
It is indeed. Gen.G finding a bunch of advantages. Excellent use of the word suave as well. Speaking of which, so was that just escape from Canyon. Decides, nope, I would prefer not to do this.
Canyon, one of the most often heard pieces of criticism for this player, which also ties into his strength, which is mid to late game impact and carry performances, is that he's not doing enough. I think this game he's overcompensating a little bit. Still sitting at 16 CS, but because of the early kill, once he picks up his camps that are going to be a decent level, should be able to very quickly catch back up in experience. And when it comes to the gold, he is still doing fine. Now, this early gold lead for Gen.G, a necessity, but good to see nonetheless. Because with how game number 1 played out, it felt like Gen.G was on track for what we've seen them do so many times, and T1 really threw them off.
And I will draw attention to our viewers who aren't as familiar with our format. Overlay, I should say. You can keep track of the Kindred stacks on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see that underneath the flash. And same for any of the stacking champions, which we don't have in this game. But,
yeah, Smolder was banned. Yeah.
Owner actually doing a decent job if we're going to compare Kindred performances that we've seen this Worlds. I think he is currently 13 minutes earlier on his first mark, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, not bad.
And Shu didn't even need that to win the game. So that says
marks
something.
Are overrated.
Yeah, we are really snowballing on the marks. If he keeps this one up, it could be
Relatively
completely ridiculous. Yeah, exactly.
Now, Paze has transitioned to the top side of the Rift. Guma's actually been moved over to mid. Zeus does not have the TP available. Faker has TP to top. I wonder if T1 is going to try and contest these grubs, but Faker setting up a trap.
Yeah. You've got Owner moving on over as well. Does get seen on that control ward, but finally Pace gets that information. Has to use the ulti. Chainstone land because the flash has to come out, and Pace is going to help now with these grubs. But that is not a lot of extra power here for Gen.G. Losing that flash, really important.
Pace staying alive is crucial there. Otherwise, if they get that kill, T1 can then immediately collapse. You saw the rest of the members actually making their way over, but instead it's a big win for Gen.G. They get the grubs, and as mentioned, the Maokai is always going to have a lot of impact as Faker.
Yeah, could be in some trouble here as Lehens moving on over, finds a shattering strike. Ulti available here as Faker decides to go down, but Canyon's there to meet him. Faker now trying to change positions, but the plasma is stacked, and Paze is going to get some revenge.
And Lehens, the reposition there to deny the ability for Faker to ult out with that Kai'Sa ult.
And on top of that, Canyon using his E, not onto Faker, but in his flash path.
meaning that he had nowhere to go. Nice collapse from Genji, and they funnel that kill onto Pays, crucially to get him further and further ahead. 2-0-0 now for the Kaiser, an 800 gold lead for him, and Genji came out the gate swinging here in game 2.
And he's got some compound interest. That Ko is ticking away.
Yeah.
Gonna even further bolster the gold lead. And the biggest difference here has, I think, very clearly been Lahenza's impact in game 1 versus game 2. And then the inverse, Keria on the Braum. It's just not really the same type of champion.
Lahenza possibly looking for a little bit more here, but only level 4, as is Carrier. The 80 carries that now actually have some levels in them, as we can see here. Some Berserker's Greaves done for Gumayusi. It's a bit of a battle towards the bottom side of the map. Zayas could be in trouble. Canyon, once again, just lawnmowing his way over. Owner going to get caught by the Brambles. Actually not, because of course there's Zayas's. I'm getting confused. Should be a jungler that has that ability. Keen jumping back though. I don't know about that one, but he has the counter-strike. Zayas now looking for an opportunity here, but Keen looks like he's out. Canyon now the one moving forward, but everyone's attention to is something that we've spoken about earlier. It's a 2,000 gold lead here for Genji. It has to be. The way team fights are going to work later in the game should be able to favor T1 if they don't fall too far behind. Right now, I think that Genji are on pace for trying to create a snowball, but they cannot stop. Like, this is about continuing to press this advantage as much as they possibly can. First Dragon certainly going to help out with that. Next one going to be an Infernal. And Genji just have to keep their foot on the gas.
I mean, I think it's important to realize that kind of on paper, Genji's comp is easier to execute because it's just go forward.
Yeah.
Right? Press
go
R,
in and
engage.
kill.
Yeah, exactly. So T1 in the fights, we talked about all these tools that they have, but execution is key. Patience, kiting backwards, leveraging your range, being able to sort of circumvent your way around all of the engage that Genji's going to have. So if they get a lead, it becomes even harder to do that, and it can look even more dominating when Genji is just forcing all of these plays.
Yeah, the fact that 2 out of the 3 kills are on Pays as well is something that could be worrying, because yes, there's a range advantage for T1, but that reposition from the Killer Instinct can really allow Genji, if Pays is really strong in this game, to just clean up any situation where they can get a foothold. So things could go from bad to worse very, very quickly. That's getting ahead of ourselves, though. Let's have a look at how this mid-game is going to unfold. As already Canyon getting to work, trying to lock down 6 of these grubs. On vision right now, but we can see there's Kindred in the bottom lane, so it's not likely that a contest is going to work out.
And this all comes from Chovy's prio in mid. This time around actually is able to have that very oppressive laning phase, and Faker just has to catch the wave, so I think T1 make the right call. Don't try to fight that. Instead, try to look for the cross map. Genji with Pays and Lahenza arriving will be fine. I also want to highlight Owner now on 2 marks, found one on the Grump in topside. But Owner, who I think was by far the most consistent member of T1 in summer, had a little bit of a dip in playoffs, but then has been exceptional Worlds again. When you think of his best champions, they're champions with really high impact, but not necessarily the carries, right? It's the Vi moments, it's the Rel from last year.
You have to cast your mind back a very long way, right? It was when he was making his names on picks like Graves that you really remember him being able to carry from the jungle role. It's not something he's a stranger to. This is maybe something he's a bit rusty on.
It's just not something, like it's not about whether or not Owner can do it, but it's about how T1 as a team functions and has over the last couple of years.
I will say that when you look at this T1 draft, it definitely isn't typical T1. Like, seeing Zayas play a full-on tank is not something that we often get to see.
Yeah.
Keria, I always think of his supports as I mean, he's the flashy playmaker. When he's on Braum,
we remember it, but not with a great look in our eye, you know?
So I will say that, like, this T1 composition is definitely a bit of a difference from what we normally see from them. And while we didn't see the best version of Gen G in Game 1, you have to wonder if T1 also trying something different out on the red side to see if they can catch Gen G off guard. So far in the early game, Gen G have been outperforming them in terms of the lane swap and punishing them on the side lanes. We'll see how things transition as we get into the mid game and these objectives become more important.
Yep, I think Gumayushi's positioning going to be extremely important, and the way Ona plays around the rest of his team to try and maximize these marks. Shun got to 4 stacks of the Kindred mark at 28 minutes and 42 seconds. See whether Ona can get a little bit higher than that, because it's the next few that are going to be the most important. Of course, remember guys, 4 stacks on your Kindred marks, that's when you get the big old range boost and you're feeling really good about it. But Gen G right now utilizing 6 grubs to smash down this turret. It's not a race this time. Yeah, T1 just didn't even really start.
It's also the biggest boost, and it's the only one that's actually essential. You know, everything past that is nice, but
yeah,
particularly, Lahens.
Yeah, possible catch here on Carrier once again. He shows them the door, but Pei says, no, I'm not going to get caught by that one. One more auto attack, but there's the Lamb's Respite, and Ona is going to be able to save Carrier. He actually walks out so that he doesn't get tagged.
I like the aggression there from Gen G. Carrier, thanks to Ona's ultimate, is able to get him away to safety. But Carrier, very close to losing his life, and you can see how much control Gen G have over the map. That bottom side is just littered with wards, and it just goes to show the way in which they set up the pressure onto bot. They had control over mid, transition that priority, and then they converted it into an easy objective setup. All of the early game objectives have gone the way of Gen G, and now they return their bot lane to mid, ready for the Rift Herald.
Thing that I'm looking at is still just going to be Ona. As this game goes on, you can see he's got a gigantic lead as far as farm is concerned, but it is still Canyon. With these early kills, with the amount of objectives that they've been able to lock down, does have a slight gold advantage, but it is very, very slight. And Ona is a large proponent of where the damage is going to come from in this game from T1. And as that range increases, his lethality will increase as well. Not the stat, just in general. It's an awkward word to use in League of Legends. I apologize, but that's going to be Rift Herald going on over to Gen G as well. A monopoly on these objectives so far in this game as Carrier's flashing on over. Lahens could be in trouble. Shattering Strike going to hold him in place as Faker wants to be able to get a piece of this. He's not going to get the kill. That's going to go to Ona, as T1 who managed to get their first kill of the game.
Really nicely done there by T1. So Gen G started up the Herald as a hold that thought we might have a collapse imminent here.
Yeah, you've got Zeus throwing down the Nature's Grasp, looking to try and catch them in place, but Gen G, they just exit. They just
leave.
The move to the left. I like the approach.
Not too bothered there. Keen will get the turret though. But T1 there identified we can't really fight for the Herald. And Chovy was alone in bot lane. So they read the play. Lahens actually trying to cover for Chovy, but gets caught mid-rotation. It's going to be the Grubs and the Herald going over the Gen G, but the second Dragon of the game.
Oh, okay. He just wanders on in there. He'll flash away, so they at least get that. Faker also taking the outer turret on the bottom side, but that is so big. And now it's Hextech Soul this game.
Ona didn't have Smite. And the only way that Canyon knew was because he saw the W from Pays go over the wall. He saw the HP. It didn't get smited, and so he's like, wait, I think there's an angle
Something's
here.
fishy, yeah.
And so he just went for it. Beautiful play from Canyon. Great read from him. The Herald gets dropped in mid. And the player that we haven't talked about, but is getting monstrously scary, is Keen in the top lane. He secured a full tower on the top side, uncontested. He's almost got a 1k gold lead. That Trinity Force is on the horizon. And we talked about it in the draft, right? Into double AD carry, even into a Silas. This Jax is not really going to be afraid of anyone on the side lane. The Maokai is just going to do his best to hold him off.
Yep, it's going to be about how well T1 just holds Keen at bay and tries to bide their time. But as the game stands right now, it is not looking good because this snowball is a-rolling. Gen G are capitalizing. But it's only 2.5k, something like that as far as gold lead is concerned. 6 Grubs and 2 Dragons are what they get for it, though, which is still very, very valuable, especially with the Soul being this Hextech.
In game number 1, T1 found the one win the way of the Baron Call, and it was a weird moment because it felt like Gen G was aware of it, yet still underestimated it. It brought them back in the game, and I think they're going to need a similar moment here because, as mentioned, this composition is really going to struggle as long as Gen G has that map control. Gen G is now the one that keeps shoving out the waves, keep having prio on the vision, and it is quite hard for T1 to find a good snap engage. They have a ton of CC once you actually get on top of them, but you don't have something like the Rel, like the Leona, like the Vi to really start off a team fight when Gen G isn't ready.
Well, we talked about how Gen G, if they start off an objective, T1 actually have a lot of ways to gain access onto the objective, even if they don't have the best engage, simply due to the fact that they have a Caitlyn plus the Maokai ultimate. But ideally, they're on the objective first. They have position with the Caitlyn traps. They're forcing the enemy to face check into their Braum, into their saplings. But T1 are never being given that opportunity, thanks to how well Gen G is snowballing this early game. They have a 3k gold lead. They're playing around their side lanes incredibly well. They've got a 4-1 setup right now. Fake is in top lane catching another wave. And Gen G are just very methodically suffocating T1 out of the map.
Yep, pulling them around, as you can see, moving over towards this inner turret in the mid lane. Ace in the hole does go down, fair bit of damage onto Lehens. Decent knock up there, but Carrier had to invest the ultimate just to get them away from this turret. It's just Gen G trading up at this point in the game.
The turret stands though. Main thing for T1 is to not lose too much of that map control. You see them still moving around as a 5-man unit, maybe looking for some stragglers. Looking at the item finishes though, because of the gold leads afforded to Gen G. Pays already on 2 items, and let's not forget this Kai'Sa. It's only going to get worse from free items onwards. When you get your revolves, when you're able to be a threat both as a poke champion as well as when you dive into the backline. As you mentioned, Vedi, I actually think there's a small window where the Maokai is like tanky enough to kind of deal with the Jax.
Sure.
But once Triforce is done, it gets a whole lot harder. And in a team fight, he'll be able to, but in the side lane, getting to match is going to be very, very hard.
And we need to talk about our Mercedes-Benz features matchup. You mentioned it already on the Pays side, but Gumayusi is about to hit that trough. This is where he's going to have to dig deep and make sure he continues on that streak of his, because Infinity Edge is necessary. That 2-item spike, it feels better than it used to, but definitely wants 3 items, 4 items, needs armor penetration, Infinity Edge, and then he feels a whole lot better. It doesn't get better all that soon here for T1 in this game.
What you see though, T1 have been in this position before. They're trying to look for these small catches inside, as Zeus could be in big trouble here.
Yeah, it does have a sapling in position, actually a bit lazy.
Has not enough damage. Yeah,
not going to actually spot him. So yeah, Canyon versus Zeus would take a while, to say the least.
So right now, T1, I wonder if they even feel strong enough to contest the next dragon. They're setting up on the top side of the map. Vision is spotting them out completely. His owner is walking over wards right now, going to clear those out. Chovy respects the fact that he is on the weak side of the map as Lehens makes his way up towards the top side. Keen continues to push in the bot wave. It looks like he's heading towards a Starak second, which to me, that's kind of the break point for Jax when he's got the Trinity Force and the Staraks. He just becomes this really difficult to kill bruiser.
Yep, and I was actually going to say, if this was the Infinity Edge back for Gumayusi, then maybe there's an opportunity somewhere. He's not quite there, sitting on the pickaxe and the BF sword as the Baron is about to spawn. 10 seconds until that dragon. Is good sidestep there from Lehens. It was just going to be some support.
This is Gen G dealing with the fallout and trauma of last game. Look at the amount of vision control set up as they are heading towards this Fur Dragon. This time around, no opportunity. And T1's Baron damage is so much worse. Last time, they had an incredibly quick Baron. This time, that's not really going to be the case.
Yep. T1 not going to be able to get on over there. I think as soon as everyone saw that those timers were matched up, they were like, oh, T1's going to try for it. Gen G, of course, saw as well, and so they were able to stop that one from happening, only investing the limited resources to lock down Soul Point for themselves, continuing that monopoly on the neutral objectives, and this is really looking good for Gen G here in game number 2, which, if you're a fan of 5-game series, is pretty good.
It's, I mean, if you're ever interested in getting into super high-level league, both of these teams showcase through game 1 and game 2 how important the early game can be and how effectively you can snowball from that point depending on the strengths of your champions, because both teams have throughout this series demonstrated an effective way of how to play through that strength and snowball effectively. It's been a beauty to watch. It is a low kill game, but the map control, the decisions that Gen G have made, the tactical decisions and the execution has been near flawless, and it's resulted in a 3k gold lead 20 minutes in.
Many have credited one of Gen G's current coaching staff for being one of the original reasons why Vision in League of Legends got changed for exactly these type of games. And if you think the map is lit up now, go back, watch some old VODs.
I mean, Europe is very fond of when they nerf that, okay?
Yeah, let's have a conversation about control wards and how much they're bought and stuff like that. I think that's a good idea.
And knowing T1, what they're going to look for now is a quote-unquote, oh no, someone's caught in the side lane, followed by an immediate fight and an immediate collapse. They have dispatched of many teams when they were feeling like they were in a position of power. The problem is that generally Gen G doesn't really bite. They just let you play it out, keep their patience. It's the way they love to play, particularly when they are looking great on their carries, like in this game.
Crucially, T1's waiting for those spikes, and I believe Guma's about 200, about 100 gold off. So he needs another wave. He's waiting for that wave to be pushed in. The question is, can it? Well, he's going to get it in time because the next Dragon's in 3 minutes, and I feel like Gen G's not the time to just sporadically force this Baron. Now, I mean, they could. It's a great window for them to do it, but Malignance is almost done for Chovy. I imagine he wants to get that finished before anything comes through. The Sun and Sky actually going to be the itemization from Keen, also something we've been seeing from him, and then it goes into the Zhonya's third, which is also a very effective tool. So a lot of damage for this Jax in a side lane. Does make him a little squishier. So
feels like the 1v1 build.
Yeah.
Not going for that Sterix. So Keen going
also
to be
big
committing.
murder AD carry build.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yes. And there is a couple of those.
Yes.
So it's got some options.
It's also the role kind of changes because in longer fights, if you can get the proc of the Sundered Sky on multiple people, it actually adds to your stim. As you're saying, Vedi, if he does get focused with Sterix, you can get away from some really, really rough situations. Not really going to have the same level of playmaking as the Friendwind's now done for Canyon. Going to get so much value out of that. Steel caps on him as well. And I can guarantee you, Faker is not really interested in trying to kill a Skarner. But for the 80 carries, it's going to be quite tough.
I think Pays might be mega close to his Nashes. Does
Should
he have
be,
it
yeah.
yet?
He does. Now Carrier going to have to flash. Get out of the way of Canyon.
All right,
He's driving with a purpose, and that could be important moving forward because we know that Carrier loves to play Engage Braum. We don't like looking at it necessarily, but now without Flash, he's definitely not going to be able to utilize it. So Gen G, they have so much control of the tempo of this game. As Lahen's going to have to crash away from this one. T1 just attempting to bully them out of the river. Canyon moves on over and says no.
Item-wise, we're about as good as we're going to get, right? Both these teams should sit there and say, all right, Guma would love another item. He's not getting it. The Soul is spawning in about a minute's time. There will be nothing that he can buy in that window to be able to really be much stronger.
T1's not buying it.
What is Zeus
They're
up
like,
to?
you're not going for this.
Well, we'll see what they can actually get done here as it's going to be Carrier blowing up like a balloon.
They were not!
Yeah.
They were not doing it!
No. They did not want to. And now Gen G might be able to just head over towards this Baron and try and take that one down. Chovy still with that Spirit Rush running. Faker able to dodge out of the way.
Keen.
Oh god, this flank angle is absolutely terrifying. Of course, all of the things about T1's team fight still kind of stand, but without the Braum, that's a big piece of that puzzle missing. We'll see what they're able to do here as the nature is grasping. Does manage to stun up Canyon. He can get over that wall pretty comfortably as now they've just singled out Zeus. So much damage. Lahens takes the kill. And T1, they had the trap set up, but Gen G don't want to go there. As now Ona trying to dash back. Keen says, no, I'm going to buy time for my teammates as Carrier comes over. The Winter's Bite does nothing in Keen. He just wants to fight again. They'll take the Baron, and Keen gets back into position. And now Canyon is just crashing into them. The two-man impale as well. And Gen G will destroy the Baron, destroy the team fight. And I think they're looking for the game. Gumayushi is not going to stay undying this Worlds.
It is a systematic dissection of T1. One by one they fall, one by one the objectives follow. Gen G, calm, calculated, just eviscerate T1.
Oh, and that's straight into Soul as well.
The Nexus might not fall, but this game really should be over. Baron here for Gen G. Hextech Soul on top of it. And let's be fair, this is what we all wanted.
Oh, yeah. And this is beautiful execution of this draft as well, from Gen G start to finish. As you can see, T1, 4 versus 5, desperation. But they knew if they let this Baron go, they're just going to slowly but surely lose the game.
What's crucial here is Gen G giving absolutely no window to flip the game. With Kindred in particular, it's so easy to get over the wall, and we see that he is just being systematically denied access, and the Keen value, this Jax does so much into these 80 carries, they just can't deal with him.
I think that Keen is the biggest factor here.
Oh,
him just standing there, it's kind of like his aura is saying,
he's
try
menacing.
me, you know? And the problem is when you lose that brawn, you lose a crucial part of your front line. So there's no way for them to approach.
He's stressed out, man. Always fantastic to check out the Gen G coaching stuff. But like you say, once again, back in position. Team with the Counter-Strike now on cooldown. But Gumiushi, oh my god. That was insane damage. We've also now got a Seeker's Arm Guard on Pays. They really want to finish this game right here, right now. Look at that. Another Void Seeker going to connect. And Zap onto that. Caitlyn, they can't walk up. Like, how are they supposed to stop this freight train from crashing into their base? Gen G have taken 2 inhibitors in a matter of seconds. It's a 10,000 gold lead plus here with this Hex Dexol, and T1 once again throwing out some grasping nature. They try to line up behind their tank, and it is absolutely working. Pays is indeed unstoppable as Carrier goes down. The Killer Instinct is named well as Zeus is his second one. The Lambs Respite going to keep them alive for now, but who's it healing? It's only healing Gen G as they move to 1-1 in this series.
I like the idea of T1's composition, but in practice, the way in which Gen G executed the lane swap, the way that they punished T1 in the early game, and then they just dismantled them from start to finish, objective control, the team fights. I mean, this is the series that we want.
Yeah, this is what we wanted.
And the impact of Lands, night and day between that game 1 and 2, and I think whichever support is going to have more impact is going to keep looking better and better in this series.
And what this series has so far been about is execution of your game plan from the draft. And so far it's been beautiful for both winners. Time for us to go to a break. When we get back, we'll see what they have cooked for us in Game 3.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Yeah, yeah. I threw away the halo, never gonna be an angel. I'm more keen and able. I've been there since the cradle. Built different, homie. You could go and check the label. I'm 100% raw, underrated. Unrelated, I'm the greatest. I'm the hero and the villain. You could pick a favorite. I'm the one that everybody said he couldn't make it. Now I'm on a mission. I'ma try to win my enemies and they gon' hate. Hate is just the love when it's intensive. Dark is just the light without the sense. And loneliness is you without the friends. Click, giving up for me is too expensive. Renegade. I'm a renegade, renegade, renegade. Better run away, run away, run away. I'm a renegade, renegade, renegade. Better run away, run away, run away. I'm a renegade, 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 renegade. You better run away. I'm a renegade, renegade, renegade. Better run away, run away, run away. I'm a renegade, renegade, renegade. Better run away, run away. I tell the world, never label me the same. I feel nobody could relate. You can't box me in the day. I'm breaking chains, I'm in the raid. And that's just me, just me, just me. Don't box me in, it'll get interesting. Cause you don't know the pain that I'm wrestling. I'm a renegade when I ain't resting. That means all day. You don't wanna test me, this ain't no play. I could be the warm breeze on a cold day. Or the one you gambling with after a parlay. Yeah, but that's just me, just me, just me. Don't push me unless you're feeling lucky. Or you gon' turn this into a must-see. And I don't wanna go there, trust me. Renegade. I'm a renegade, renegade, renegade. Better run away, run away, run away. I'm a renegade, 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 renegade.
This is what you asked for. Heavy is the crowd. Fire in the sunrise. Ashes raining down. Heavy is the crowd.
Going to be the Grubs and the Herald going over the Gen G, but the second dragon of the game.
Oh, okay. He just wanders on in there. Take the Baron, and Key gets back into position. And now Canyon is just crashing into them. The two-man impale as well. And Gen G will destroy the Baron. The Killer Instinct is named well. Isaias is his second one. The Lancer Spike going to keep them alive for now, but who's it healing? It's only healing Gen G as they move to 1-1 in this series.
Gen G saying, you thought this was Worlds? No, this is the LCK and will bring you back down to earth by beating you the most exceptional way we know how, by macroing you until you fall asleep.
Hey, I loved that game. I'm also 10 of the most boring people I know. No, but this was
10?
All 10. This was classic Gen G, right? Like they set up exactly what they wanted to do in draft and they executed it really, really well. They knew exactly where they wanted to be on the map. They got a little bit of help from that nice like drive-through smite steal. But yeah, like this is the Gen G that we saw in LCK. This is the Gen G that we expected.
Just so people don't get angry, I also love seeing great macro play. I was just leading us in, okay?
It's a joke.
Yeah. But on the opposite side of the draft, I felt like T1 weren't playing to what was their strengths, right? Like when I looked at Red Side coming in, I thought they were going to set up really nicely for like a carry, a counter pick. On my bingo card was not carry a blind picking Braum at any point in time in this tournament, and I felt like it was a lot of missed opportunities because as they came into it, you can see it in the bottom of your screen, they could have just gone for the Silas in the position that they picked the Braum. You already know you're up against the Ahri and this is something you want to go for. Then you're still able to go for the Maokai counter pick into the Jax on that last or on that or 5, and you keep that counter pick for Carry where he's been so potent, and you can bring out something funky like a Nico or like the Pyke that we saw the other day. But that's not what we got. Instead, Carrier just felt invisible, was getting caught out in multiple positions, and did not look comfortable on this Braum pick whatsoever.
I completely agree. You know, Carrier has been so good on things with lots of mobility. You know, Rakan and Bard and roaming around and making a lot of plays that are quick for them, but then sticking them on Braum. And then you also look at the other players. Zeus, to me, is the most dangerous player on T1, and you're putting him on the tank, and you're putting a Kindred early pick in the hands of Owner. When Owner has been so good as you're engaged, it feels like a lot of things are just kind of swapped around for the actual players that you would feel like. That being said, the early lane swap, Gen G got such a big advantage lane swap wards were great. They saw T1 trying to go for match. T1 were so dizzy, and Gen G got a massive, massive lead out of the early game.
Yeah, I mean, it was glorious. They did send 4 people also to kill Zeus this time instead of 3.
Yeah, but, well, yes. The big point for me on this one was the befuddlement that T1 had in the early stages meant that Keria didn't hit level 2.
Yep.
Because they didn't know if they're supposed to go top or they're supposed to go bottom, he didn't get onto mid-wave. He gets caught on the level 1. Then they get the dive here onto Zeus, who did play really, really well to manage to almost turn this around, but he still falls. But it was a lot of that indecisiveness that came back to bite T1 in this play, and I think it was great from Gen G to try and set up that confusion in the early stages.
Yeah, I thought this was in particular really good for Gen G. They've classically been really, really good in these lane swap situations. We were talking about them as the best lane swap team in the world, which is why it was really interesting to see them so dizzy on the map at times in game 1. This is a very restabilization for them.
It's true, and it's like you got everything you wanted. All you had to do was play it out, and you are the most adept team in the world to do that. It does make me think, and we had this conversation backstage also, Rob, you're like, oh, I think all of us were a little like Keria on the Bram, a bit disappointed, but I feel like this is one of those things that T1 would do in a draft 2 after winning the game 1, right? Because if this series gets played out, there's 4 or 5 games and Keria hasn't pulled out that trump card, that tells me a lot about the general ability of T1, because that has been their strat, is one of the reasons why they won Worlds 2023.
Yeah, I think this to me was T1 trying to test the waters and say, hey, look, if we just say we are going to absorb the dive and try and play within that space, maybe we can find something different. And as Kobe was already alluding to, like, a carry pick for Owner was not what I expected when he's been incredible on picks like the Void thus far at the tournament. So it definitely felt like teasing the waters in the same way that we saw Gen G do so game 1 with the Yone. But now coming back into it, I think I'd want to see T1 go back to early game control, having Keria open up on the map, because it was actually Lehens who dictated a lot of that support matchup for me in this early stage of the game. He looked significantly better, and it was catching Keria or catching Faker out at 7 minutes in top lane that really broke this game open for Gen G.
You had called it out before. Lehens listened to you.
Yeah. I had to just disappoint him, Adam, you know?
heard you directly. I also think it'll be interesting now, as we saw T1 going back to the blue side. I don't expect to see Gen G leaving the Yone up again going into game 3. So I'm curious to see if a changed ban strategy affects what T1 want to get on that blue side of the map.
Yeah.
And if they're going to continue to put a lot of effort into these level 1s and these lane swaps, because again, I really feel like the information gathering at the beginning and getting the wards down, you know, allow for this kind of domino effect that we see in the game here for game number 2. If Gen G are able to come out with a really good level 1 here, this is where you could kind of like take control of the series, because, you know, 1-1, blue sides, but now we get into the real meat of a best of 5.
Yeah, first it's like the entree, the course, right? And we're going to get to the main dish indeed. I just think the demarcation lines that have been drawn, if you look across games 1 and 2, because we can't forget, after that kind of Zeus repel, Gen G was also firmly in control before T1 brought it back. They were completely in control. So for me, the momentum feels a little bit shifted towards a T1 that has to make something happen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is going to be trying to get access to the map early and trying to play for some of the early Void grubs and getting your control that way, because it was a big risk in this game as well, where they gave across all 6 of those Void grubs, trying to cross map to a Jax that's going to be able to match up to the Maokai. Like, there was a lot of risk taken by T1, and if you actually think back to the start of game 1, it was T1 off to an early lead. I think it was mistakes at those Void grubs that came back to bite them. So there's definitely ways T1 can control this game coming into number 3.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Things are heating up here. I wonder if Atlas has taken off his jacket yet, or if he's still in his full 3-piece suit,
You look
even
great.
though it's boiling in here.
Too committed to the 3-piece. I love this suit so much. I've worn it on 2 other occasions. One of them was a world final. The other one was my wedding. This is how you know that I guarantee this is going to be an incredible series. Those were the other 2 best days of my life.
We thank you for your work, Atlas. It's
You're
greatly
welcome.
appreciated. As going into this game number 3 draft, no surprises, although that Yone ban coming out on the side of T1 here. Aurora still going to get taken out. The Ashe still up. Skarner still up as well. Jax available. Skarner Jax would be the kind of no-brainer 1-2 here for Gen G.
The BLG approach, as we like to call it. Certainly a favorite for them in their semi-final that went pretty well, you could say, for BLG. We'll see whether that is exactly where Gen G are going to go. Not deciding to switch up the picks here, as it will be the Jax to be locked in first. And I think that, you don't talk about hovers is something that we sometimes talk about. This is a hover that you can probably talk about.
Yeah, I think you can be pretty confident with that one, Atlas.
Yeah.
Especially with Keen. Now, the question is, will it be a third game? Skarner, I'm going to hazard a guess and say yes. Canyon, of course, has showcased a wealth of different champions. His Maokai win rate this year is almost as good as his Nidalee win rate. I mean, the man is very versatile in terms of the jungle role, and they're actually, based on the hovers, holding off on that lock-in. Chovy's win rate with Ahri so far in the best of fives hasn't been the strongest, but last game he had the better over Faker. He was able to have a lot of mid control thanks to the Ahri pick and what was happening around the map. And we'll see what the response is here from T1.
Also ties into Chovy's approach. Often as a player, if he thinks the champion is the best, we'll just keep picking that until the antithesis is proven. Renata coming through. Again, Keria having an incredible game, and we were calling for this, and I love it here as well. Always going to feel strong. The only thing for Gen G, you do have the opportunity to pick up like Ezreal here. Doesn't mean your jungle pool is going to get pinched, but getting a non-stationary AD carry, I think, is going to be a really big deal, because otherwise the team fights are going to be really hard to play out.
Depends what he has planned. Could be something else here as well, as that Ahri Nocturne combo that they swept through Swiss with is going to be locked away. Canyon, he is sick of playing this Skarner, and I could understand, no shade cap, but I don't know, it just doesn't do very much damage. You only build health, it's just less fun than Nocturne, who does slashy.
You are setting up very clearly for a Kai'Sa pick here for Gen G. You imagine that's going to be banned away by T1. The backline threat onto the Ashe is very lethal. The Kindred, I think, is it's a really good matchup into the Nocturne.
Yeah.
You just went out on the skirmishes, so they're going to remove that. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Vi removed, to be honest, with the amount of mobility on the side of Gen G. Just take that away from Oner, one of his best champions.
Yeah, protecting a lot of bans as well, because T1 basically have to ban Kai'Sa Ezreal. And so it's going to be relatively telegraphed what they're going to be taking into this game. Of course, T1 not too worried about it, because Ashe Renata is just universally strong.
Yeah, I was about to say, Ezreal is another, but I think the Ziggs makes a ton of sense given what we've seen so far. And
then you get Ezreal. So I guess that's the 3 picks that they were happy to grab. And if you've got 3, then you're not too worried.
Noteworthy as well that the Sylas did still get banned, even though Chovy did a really good job in that matchup, still got to deny it. And I think it's because of the Nocturne, right? So much of the value is because you're the one is the Twitch Nocturne actually gonna be denied here, and I think it makes sense given how insanely annoying that looked to play against.
They thought that Lehens was going to go back to his Shen. That's what was going to happen.
But
as there's the Ezreal. That makes a lot of sense. He could still theoretically play Shen, but it's not going to be a thing.
I like this Gen G draft. I really do. I think it's very solid. It makes a lot of sense in the context of how Gen G like to play. These 2 last picks are going to be crucial. The mid jungle from T1. Faker has had a phenomenal world so far. Pairing up alongside Oner, they've been doing a good job together. The question is, what plan have they got for Canyon Chovy?
Let's just see. Wanting probably a little bit of physical damage from that mid lane. We'll see where T1 are going to go. Never mind. Okay, Yasuo could be an option. Yakali really hard, and he's going to lock it in. I think if you were watching Worlds last year, you understand this is one of the ones that Faker's pretty good at. Hasn't been playing it very much this year, however. Still, this guy has played competitively like 80 different champions, so he's fine. And that's going to be the Vi locked away for Oner. Although they do have a bit of time to think about it, I still think that they don't need to worry. And so it's relying on Vi and Ashe as far as that physical damage is concerned, but I think that the damage profile kind of okay. It's just range that might catch them out, but the way to start fights is what we were looking for after game 2.
It's such a peak T1 comp as well. So much upfront burst, allowing you to play towards that bailout, which is something they love to do. Oner on a champion with a lot of engage and playmaking potential. And what is Lehens going to pick here? This time the Blitzcrank is open. But it looks like instead they're going to go for something a lot more well-rounded, and they did have a really good game on it in game number 2.
Yep, the pretty standard option in the rel. But like you say, I actually think playing for Lehens' comfort is a really good idea after what we saw in game 1 and the rest of this tournament, because Lehens has kind of been the weak link here for Gen G. Not in game 2, though. Trying to carry that one forward does make a lot of sense.
Now, when we think of Faker, there are a slew of champions that you can attribute to his name, right? Of course, Akali is definitely up there in terms of a champion that he's had a lot of presence on, but Knight yesterday beautifully demonstrated what this champion can do to an Ezreal. And that is what T1 is envisioning in this game. The level of execution damage is incredibly high. And when you've got a Vi there to dive alongside you with the potential of the Ash Arrow pick, no cleanse is going to save you from a Vi and an Akali duo, but it's about being in a position to really execute on that, because Gen.G have a lot of skirmishing threats themselves. The Jax was a huge problem in the previous game, and I can tell you right now, Ashe isn't going to have an easier time in this game compared to the Caitlyn on the last one. Renata's going to be crucial in the usage of the ultimate, and I think that, again, Gen.G have a pretty straightforward and easy comp to execute.
I would agree. I think that there is a lot of pressure on T1, but I want to go back to what you were saying, Chronicler. This is a T1 draft. We were watching the World Final last year. The only difference about this one in comparison to that is that was a mental snowball that they were rolling on, right? This was a T1 that was sweeping a series. This time, they have to utilize it to come back from a deficit here after losing game number 2. But here we are onto the Rift. See whether they can make it work.
Gonna be looking at the lane assignments. Also do know Chovy going for a grasp again. Would expect him to try and keep Faker down, particularly those first 6 levels is where the Akali can really struggle.
Certainly is. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, you need to log into your Riot account on lolesports.com and earn watch Worlds Live to earn exclusive emotes, icons, capsules, all that cool stuff. We've got a little bit of time here. You're not going to miss too much. So you can hop on over and you can get that one done. Just to get some free stuff. It's really cool. Okay, Zeus is standing on a ward, and there are a lot of bad guys in the brush. Oh, no, there's the charm. The crash down as well. It's a dead Gragas. It's going to take a little bit of time because he's relatively tanky, but still, that's first blood going over to Pays, and maybe that makes Faker's job a little bit harder.
That ward so crucial. Spotting Zeus out. I don't think Chovy's flash was necessary, but he committed it anyway to guarantee that pick. And Gen.G start off game 3 with first blood.
And Chovy's flash doesn't even matter all that much because it's Akali that he's laning against. Not a lot of kill threat in the first 5 levels. So he should be absolutely fine navigating this one. He's also, Chovy does kind of like the laning phase in general, as we're going to see standard lanes here for likely the first time.
Do have Pays now walking up. Tear from the start.
Oh, God.
Something you're going to be very happy about just in what it means for your spikes, because obviously it doesn't really give you any combat stats early. And in this lane, Lahens and Pays are just playing to clear the waves, don't be diveable, and get to your items. 2 items for Ezreal is always the main breakpoint. From that point on, he only gets stronger. And we do see both junglers starting on opposite sides of the map, although Canyon, I think, started his Raptors, then path down. Whereas Owner just doing a full topside clear and maybe looking to impact this bot side. And these trades are actually really valuable because it could set up for a possible dive towards the bot side of the map.
I will say, it's nice to see move away from the lane swap, only because while T1, I think, in the Swiss stage really had phenomenal execution on the lane swap, this, to me, is the bread and butter of Gumayushi and Keria. Their 2v2 laning prowess has been so incredible. And while I think there's Summer, of course, question marks always when it comes to T1 and Summer, at this World Championship, watching this bot lane 2 versus 2 has been a joy to watch. And you're seeing it right now. They know the strength and the advantage they have. They don't care about the tier. They know that with this Ashe Renata, they can bully this duo as much as they like.
Yeah, and I think that this is the biggest benefit of not having a lane swap this time around, and it's curious that Gen.G didn't decide to opt into it themselves. Maybe just saying that now that we've got a kill on our Ezreal, we're going to be okay, but a tier doesn't really give you a whole lot of stats. Still, the fact that the wave is going to be pushing out and Pays can pick up a bunch of farm underneath the turret, that's going to be okay, as Faker only hit by the non-true damage part of the Orb of Deception after a couple of abilities go his way. Not going to be feeling too bad here as he's playing with his health bar into Chovy in this lane.
Now, the Ahri-Akali matchup is pretty interesting because once you get to level 5, you can actually start winning out very easily on a lot of trades for the Akali, just because the bonus movement speed from the W makes it very easy to sidestep the E from coming out from the Ahri. The problem is, when you go for the Electrocute over the Fleet Footwork, it's very easy for Chovy to kind of chip away at your HP bar when you're trying to farm, and it means the Faker's in this awkward spot where he now needs the wave to bounce back into him, which is happening, fortunately, but it's this weird, awkward middle ground where he's now relying on his Doran shield to kind of mitigate and heal back up in this midterm mid laning.
It's also, again, the grasp, and I do think that we have seen in the past players really get caught off guard by just the extra amount of health that can give you. Akali in particular plays around kill windows so well, but if your first couple of plays don't end up working out and you fall behind the curve, it can be really hard to play out. As obviously Canyon just wants to do exactly this, which is just farm, and even though they don't spot him directly, if they see his top side is down, we'll know that he's on the bot side of the map. But it's an early game Nocturne, not really expecting a lot, but that does mean that Keen is actually in a really awkward spot. His wave state not looking good, already chunked to half, and Owner is on the top side of the map.
And full information over to T1 as well as Canyon walks over that ward. They knew exactly, they had an idea of where he was, but then they get full confirmation. Now Canyon going to try and clear that one out, does get information of the ward he just walked over.
Yeah, read the movement.
Yeah, as a result, Keen actually just going to go for a recall right here, not wanting to risk too much. And despite the fact that Faker is sat on below half health for the majority of this lane, he has kept these minions really pushed towards Chovy, so it does give a lot of control over to T1.
Yeah, it's very awkward for him because Chovy's holding on to a monstrous freeze. The idea is Faker, you try and get those early pushes in, then you get the bounce back, but Chovy's like, no, I'm good. Now the wave will finally bounce back, but he ticks over to level 6. Ideally, Faker wants to back now so that the wave will freeze here, and now Chovy's back is a little bit awkward. He's going to try and interrupt Faker. It will be crucial if he does. Massive,
oh, wow.
massive,
He was
massive.
on that ward, as we could see. I thought he was actually just a prophet, but no.
Oh, they've actually brought the bot lane over towards mid to catch this wave. Faker can now actually TP bot and go lane against Pays, who can still...
Oh, body slam going to miss. That could be a big deal here. They're evening out the health trades that have been going pretty consistently in Zeus' favor.
Chovy looking to TP back towards his lane. Will be able to do so. And the first objectives spawning now. We have the Grubs online. Drake's there as well. You can argue either team is very happy to just wait till level 6. You have a Vi composition on one end, a Nocturne on the other. It's just going to be a trade here. Does mean that this time Genji not going to have the Jax with an unreasonable amount of grubs. Even early trades here.
Certainly feels good for T1. This time it's going to be a trade, so it's not going to be the, the Grubs team picking up all of the dragons as well. Feeling a lot more even.
Grub secured. And I think both teams are quite happy with the current game state. Obviously, T1 are setting their sights on a top lane play right now. Keen level 6. As those resistances, no Ash Arrow available yet.
Yeah, Lahan's looking to get himself into position. I think they had an idea that something was going down. Notably, Canyon not quite level 6 just yet. Doesn't have that paranoia up and available as T1 don't opt in for any sort of dive attempt. But Keen still wanting to get aggressive on Nagumi Ishu. Does have to cleanse. And pushes him away. So just going to be able to settle for the summoner spell and just move off.
Nicely as well, Genji have moved Pays out of the bot lane matchup in towards mid, where he's much safer. That means that they can keep Chovy into the Faker matchup, where the Ahri can continue to bully out on the Akali. With level 6 coming through and level 7 being a crucial breakpoint for Akali, just because she's going to get her Q at level 4, which I think it's either about 80 energy or about 70, but it makes the Q rotations much more comfortable when it comes to trading in the laning phase.
Vision control here for T1. Do have Canyon, but he's backing, wanting to spend his earned gold from
Ash
those
Arrow.
4 players.
Oh god, okay, the arrow is going to connect, the counter-strike wears off, but there's the cease and desist! And he can't flash leap strike out of that one, and even though he had the Grandmaster's might, he's still going down. That is going to be a kill going over, equaling things out for T1.
A classic T1 trap, springs on Keen, get a kill onto Vi, and also get the flash out of Keen.
I love that you called it a classic, because it truly is that idea that T1 makes it look like they've gone back to base, but they stay on the map a little bit longer to catch you pushing that wave out, and it works to perfection. They're able to equalize the kills, and T1 find their first of the game.
And I love this. I feel like it harkens back to something that Chovy was talking about in the tease earlier on. The fact that, Faker was known so much for these mind games that he plays. I think it's all of T1 that does those mind games now. It used to be maybe a little bit too much with excessive Barons being started every single game. Becomes less of a mind game and more of a you do this every game.
A bad habit, perhaps.
Yeah, kind of. But they are always just trying to push these advantages, trying to find opportunities where their opponents don't have enough information to be able to do what they want. So really nicely done here from T1 to try and claw back a bit of control of this game. But right now, plate should be going over to Chovy here, as Guma not going to be too worried. Canyon, level 7.
again, it's a relatively slow early game. Kind of what we've come to expect from these two teams as they prioritize farm, but also it just goes to show how difficult it is to kill these players. Like, there's a reason why Gumayushi went deathless for so long, and he still only got a single death through his name, even though Gen.G absolutely
definable
stomped.
KDA.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you love that.
And it's a situation where both teams just play the map very well. They're constantly fishing for opportunities. They're playing for these early plates. But it's the Grubs now become the next big point of contention. A minute away. Both junglers already setting up some vision around the top side of the map. Keen, I imagine he wants to get a quick base in before the objective spawns, but that could be a window for Guma to already then push out mid and then set up on the top side river.
As we get into these fights, on one hand, how is Gen.G going to be able to absorb the amount of backline threat that's there? Because T1 can split up a fight very easily with the Greg Assault, and obviously it has Owner to start him out.
Trying to come on through here as Zeus is looking to take the fight to Keen. Does find some nice body slams. There's the slowdown as well. Leap strike just to try and escape, and you can see Canyon. Oh, he was looking for a potential angle as Keen able to sidestep, but that does buy some space. Still, Owner not going to be committing because they didn't know exactly where Canyon was. That could have been a follow-up.
I'm actually very surprised. Keen had no flash, and Owner with ulti was in range. I think he could have committed, but I guess because Keen hadn't used his E yet, they were hesitant to really fully commit to the play. Regardless, the damage was done. Zeus has already gone back to base. He's now back out onto the map before Keen has had an opportunity to, but Keen's TP is available. Are they going to contest this?
Just have to say, I think 6 Grubs is going to be pretty valuable
for
that's T1. Yeah, the teleport flank angle is coming in here. Keen, good position to start this one off. He's just beelining right in there. Paranoia comes down. They do throw out the ulti. Carrier trying to keep them at bay, and oh no! There goes Lahens, and now Faker is caught onto Keen, lands the shuriken, and he's going to wait for the leap strike. There's the max range Q, and that's Faker's Akalia Worlds, ladies and gentlemen.
And that is Faker coming in huge, but it's the team response from T1 that's the biggest thing here. Chovy couldn't join that fight. I think Gen.G was expecting them to back off when the Nocturne came through, but T1 said, no, we can take it. And they take a big lead here in game number 3.
We talked about how this composition is very much true to the style of T1, and their ability to take these early skirmishes wasn't there in game 2, but you can see how prepared they were. Owner and Carrier were the focus at the start of the fight. Carrier, though, has the passive to be able to reborn, and then, of course, also has the ultimate available too. So even though they're getting collapsed on by every single side, the TP comes in, a nice flash comes out. Carrier doesn't care that he's getting focused on. The Gragas then arrives, and crucially, as you said, Chovy can't join the fight.
Yeah, and Keen and Lahens spent most of that fight fighting each other because of that hostile takeover that came in. Faker gorgeous on the 5-point strike there. You see T1 with Reckless in the back. Feeling pretty happy about this one. And Helper and Mata getting more and more stressed as this game goes on. Still, a lot of game left to play here. We are tied up in this series. We'll see whether Gen.G can claw their way back to an even game state after that big lead has been acquired. About 2.5k. Now the lead for T1.
FaZe has got to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of the gold for Gen.G is on him, but into a Fett, Akali, and Owner also getting bigger and bigger. They're looking to punish Keen. Again, this Jax not having a great time. 4 men at the ready.
All right, Canyon does have that Paranoia up and available. They know exactly where he is. This is a big gamble if Gen.G do decide to go for it. Once again, Chovy is very far away, but this time has the teleport up and available. Nice little stun to come through there as Keen now with the Counter-Strike on cooldown. They're trying to deal with these waves, but another one conga lining in. This War of Attrition looks to just be going in T1's favor, especially with all those grubs, the Void Mites and everything like that. Gen.G just going to back away.
Gen.G seeding more, and T1 no, like we don't have to dive this, we can just poke them down. The only way with the range that Gen.G have that they can never really push back is if they actually hard commit. But because of the vision, T1 knows everyone is in the area. Chovy was showing on top wave, and they weren't worried about a possible collapse.
The timing was fantastic as well. T1 had gotten a deep push into top side, which meant that Chovy went to go and answer. Bear in mind that he's a large part of Genji's wave clear, so while he's present top, it gives T1 the ability to stack bot. They then keep Zeus in mid, he catches the wave there, and they don't really lose anything. Sure, Zeus lost like half a wave in the top side of the map, and crucially, Chovy does have an experience advantage over Faker, but he should be able to claw that back as long as he starts matching in the side lane. He's got his fully completed rocket belt, which means that he's now going to be a much more of a threat in the 1v1.
It's telling that the Ahri, Nocturne, Jax composition doesn't want to fight for Herald. And when you look at these two compositions, it does really feel extremely volatile. Because they are both so short range, you really, once you find yourself in a deficit, have to be extremely clean with your fight selection. As this bot lane turret will go, but the Herald might be dropped in mid. There it is.
Yep, that's going to be even more money going over to T1. They're happy to trade these turrets because this is so much more map control, as Canyon's doing his very best to try and clear things out. Dustbringer should be able to help, as there's the charge, and this turret's not going to be long for the world. Oh my god, the damage! The arrow's going to connect, and Lance trying to crash his way out. Gumayusi says no! He has his bow primed, and it's another... Oh, never mind, not another charge. That's a smite coming through. Oh. Maybe it was a bait, sees an assist, and it's a double kill! He's able to get the arcane ship, but just barely clipped by the hostile takeover. And Genji cannot do anything this game.
I mean, it's just a beatdown from T1. If game 2 is 6...
Oh god, okay, there's going to be 5 people towards this top side of the map as Paisley going to try and get on in there. Another cast. Kane is just being thrown around by like a ragdoll, and it's another kill for Gumayusi as a result. Genji not able to do anything. Faker just utilizing the second portion of his ultimate because he can. And it's all of a sudden a 6,000 gold lead.
It's just a relentless barrage of punch after punch, and T1 are not letting up. They use the Herald mid. Lehend with a slight overstep gets collapsed on. The burst damage from Ona and Duma mean that he drops first. And then look at this play. Canyon thinks that he can punish Carrier, but the way in which Ona turns this around, connects the Q, the ulti to follow, the Ashe passive is stacked, and they're able to get a double for Guma. And what's crazy is they didn't even slow down there, because Faker was pushing out the top wave. They turn to top, they get that objective as well. They get another kill.
It's gone from bad to worse for Genji in this one, but T1 really showing that this bounce back was real. And coming into this series, they'd only played on blue side one time. This is the third time they've been on blue side this whole Worlds, which is kind of crazy to me because they do love this side of the map. And they are demonstrating to us that in this series, it is not going to be any different. And hope, like what I'm trying to get to here is that we might have 5 games, and that'd be super cool.
T1, when they are playing a comp that feels like it fits them versus the T1 that is on something like we saw last game, is night and day.
I mean, there is like a perfect example for this. We have the stats for Keen on Jax in the last game. If you compare that to what he's doing now in this game, it is absolutely night and day. And Zeus on this Gragas in comparison to the Maokai is incredible. Speaking of which, he's going to get tagged by that arrow. Still, there was no one there to follow up, so he's just going to be denied a turret take. That's going to be down very, very low, but still not going to be the money going over to Genji.
Look how scared they have to play as well, and the only saving grace for Genji, which by itself is not enough, is that they do have 2 dragons. The problem is you're playing into T1, and we all know that as soon as the Baron is online, they're going to just start pulling it consistently. This Drake, obviously Genji, never going to contest, but I don't think Genji is ever going to give, or T1 rather, is ever going to give Genji the opportunity to get to the point where these gold leads matters less, right? When you have the 2 items on pace, when Chovy can get to a next item, as, oh boy.
Yeah, it's going to continue not being very possible to be able to make those advantages happen, and if Faker gets into the Shroud, Zay's going to follow up the kill, and now Faker is looking to try and get in there for more. Dashing after Canyon and Keen here. It is just Faker at the moment, but now you can see they make their way in. The paranoia comes down. Decent little utilization of the counter-strike, but Faker's going to get another kill. Hostile takeover means Keen is dead at the same time, and Pay's almost hit by that handshake. It could have been worse, and it's still a disaster.
No mercy will be shown to their domestic rivals as T1 just run through Genji once more. There is no Baron for them to get. 18 minutes in, and they are slaughtering Genji.
And Genji, the only reason why Baron isn't taken is because we're 18 minutes in.
Yeah.
It's 9-1, 6.5K gold lead here. And Genji, they can't even get there to waves.
Game 2 was systematic dissection from Gen.G. They controlled the map, they were patient, and T1 were suffocated. But in this game, T1 are just brawling.
It's a sledgehammer.
It is a beatdown. And sure, a bit of anti-synergy there as this knocks Lahen's out of the way of Faker's E. He flashes to try and cancel the back, doesn't quite get it in time, but he says, guys, I'm not letting my ulti be wasted. You better collapse here. Here comes Ona, and then the follow-up comes through.
T1 from these winning positions are always going to be looking for more and more aggressive sideline punishes. And Gen.G, not respecting pace, just has to watch his teammates die. Nothing that he can do there.
And the travel on the Shuriken backflip there as well from Faker. This guy, when he plays Akali at Worlds, it's just a beauty to watch as we're straight into it once again. Magnustorm going to come down. This could be a pick as Carrier. Actually more tanky than we might have expected. He gets bailed out as well as Faker gets another one. Make it two as Ona is in on the action still. He's going to go down. The cast just to remove Pays, and Gumayushi is on a rampage. Keen is on the floor, and T1 are looking to shut out this game.
Carrier doesn't even die, gets the full value from the bailout. The TP comes in, and they're not gonna relent. Chovy and Pace just, again, have to watch their teammates fall one after another, after another.
T1 is just crushing Gen.G with their wallets right now. Gen.G admirably tried to find a pick, but you said it yourself, Atlas, Carrier way tankier than they were expecting. Yeah. And while they expected to one-shot Carrier, he bought enough time to allow T1 to collapse and turn it around. Now, the Baron is on the Rift. Another bad fight for Gen.G will result in that objective falling. And you can see the vision coming through from Lahen's. He chopped 3 wards in a nice little triangle, I guess, to just try and make sure that they have some semblance of information.
Yeah, maybe something won't get swept.
With how deep in they are, like even a good fight might mean Baron is gone, but maybe you get like a bounty or two. Things are looking dire, and unlike some of the previous games, the ranged wave clear is really lackluster when it comes to these Baron minions.
Oh, handshake going to connect there. Not a lot of follow-up onto Lahen's as they didn't have a lot of information. Red buff is the prize that they're looking for, but it's going to get reset, and it looks like Ona should be able to take control of it. Into the Shroud goes Faker. Is now paranoia. They think they might have them where they want them. As over the wall goes Chovy. He's got the flank angle, and they take down Guma to start off the fight, but it has to be paid for by Keen. Now a 4 versus 4 as T1 look to rally back into position. Can they win the fight without Guma is the question. He's so much of their consistent damage. Is now Chovy dancing around, not able to find too much more, and T1 back away.
You're completely right, Atlas. Losing Guma is a lot of the damage gone, so T1 have to be a lot more careful. Faker had his ultimate available, but they chose not to take the fight any longer. A crucial flank from Chovy. He's been largely invisible in this game, quietly farming on the side, but you look at his itemization, he is on I mean, he's ahead of Faker in terms of itemization. So there are still avenues for Gen.G to turn this around, but they need to find more picks like this.
A very deep TP starts this off, and it's hard to respond for T1 because they don't have the vision. The Nocturne denies them so much, but this is where the wallets come through. Even with the carry being taken out immediately, Gen.G don't really have an opportunity to chase further, because if they get another kill there onto maybe Faker, you turn it into a Baron, the game might be playable. Instead, it's a moment of respite, but T1 still have a very tight clutch on this game.
Yeah, Faker actually looking for Chovy here as he gets into the Shroud. The rest of T1 now moving up. The arrow not going to connect. As Gen.G are now looking to back away. Now it's Zeus' turn to start a bit of an engage with a body slam. And this push and pull, Gen.G putting that phalanx back together. All about this Baron right now. No one really being able to get too much ground.
Crucially, the Dragon is completely exposed. The bot wave has been pushed in by T1. Faker commits his ultimate to try and force something out from Chovy, but he holds his nerve, doesn't get dissuaded, still has his ulti available, but the problem is all of Gen.G was shepherded to the top side of the map, leaving the mid lane exposed. T1 get the objective, and now they can turn to the Dragon.
True Shot Barrage is going to spot that that's exactly what T1 are intending. Only going to start that one up, but you can see Keen so far away from this on that bottom side of the map, and it's because the map is so incredibly wide and dark that it's very difficult for Gen.G to get down there, as Lahen's trying to set a trap here for anyone who unwittingly moves towards his top side. The Drake will just be taken here, evening out that count 2 for 2, but Next one going to be very, very scary because a 4 Drake Hextech Soul sounds unbeatable. Shattering Strike going to get a fair bit of value here, but Lahen's still in a whole lot of trouble as Faker looking for them. Still dashing forward as the Paranoia does come down. The stun is gorgeous. The execution is perfect. And now Chovy looking to try and get out of there with that Spirit Rush. And T1, they play it slow. They accept that they're going to take that pick, and they're looking for more now as far as control of this map.
You got to remember that T1 just took a dragon. They need to get the resets through. Crucially in all of this, while the trap was turned on its head, notice that Chovy has a 2-level lead over Faker. He has been over-grouping, and he has been denied a lot of farm. Even that top wave just now, he conceded over to Zeus to make sure that he was getting the resources. And while there are advantages across the board, Chovy becomes the sole win condition for Gen G. If he's able to find those picks, if he can find an opportunity, then there is an avenue back into this game for Gen G.
And while the Baron damage for T1 is pretty solid, right? You have Vi passive, you have Gumayushi who will shred through it fairly quickly. It's so hard to deny Nocturne access to the pit. True. And we saw T1 themselves show that a single Baron steal can be enough to turn a game on its head. And T1, I imagine, is going to be looking, unless they get a really good Baron opportunity, just start stacking these Drakes. Because the Baron actually does a ton of damage, even as we get this late into the game. You gotta have to really respect it. Not really the same for the Dragons, but that, even if you end up going for that, as dangerous as a 4 Drake Hextech Soul is, that's 8.5 minutes from now. And at that point, the gold lead isn't gonna be quite as useful. I think T1, they're gonna look for a pick onto someone, turn that into Baron, and truly break the back of Gen G.
Well, Chovy hasn't been back to base in what feels like a decent amount of time because he's been sitting on exactly these items for the last, what feels like 7 minutes or something like that. But now Gen G are poised. They're in their jungle, understanding that T1 do want to look for this Baron. They do have control vision of the area. They can get over these walls pretty comfortably. Zona going to dive into the back of the pit, take down that ward, and now T1 are going to start this one up. Paranoia can get Canyon into that pit anytime he wants, but they do need to get vision of it. They find that vision right now, and T1 immediately back away. The amount of respect being shown this game is incredibly high. T1 not wanting to give an inch.
They can just keep doing this, though. Keep forcing cooldowns. Eventually, Gen G is going to run out of wards, run out of scryers, and they are going to have to face check.
They don't have the blue trinket on Pays. I know it looks like that on the bottom of your screen, but it is unavailable. It's the only one on their side.
There you go. Ezreal, just a check.
Yep, that T1 are playing with the pressure that they have well, forcing Gen G into this uncomfortable position. Resets have come through from T1. Vision replenished now for Carrier as he makes his way back out onto the map. Faker gonna go and catch the bot wave as Chovy gets ever closer to level 16.
Only picks up a needlessly large rod, so maybe it hadn't been as long as I thought. The intensity of the game might be attributing to that one.
It's a surprisingly tense game, considering the gold deficits that Gen G find themselves in. And I really do think it's because you just keep looking at Chovy. You see how strong he is on this Ahri, and you have to respect it. T1, though, doing what they've done all game. They move into Gen G's jungle and say, by the way, this belongs to us. Please vacate the premises as we take all of your jungle camps.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is the slowly but surely drawing out the advantage, right? This is the safe way to win the game. T1 have been known to take some liberties as far as advantages are concerned.
Oh, yeah.
And this time around, not necessarily doing so as much. But what it's doing is giving Pays time to get farm, giving Chovy time to get more levels and farm himself. And so maybe when Pays has 3 items, Chovy has 3 items, that could be a time where a fight can be better here for Gen G. But I still think that T1 have a lot of great tools in these team fights later on. Zeus on his Gragas has made magic happen. T1 and on his Akali needs no introduction. And Gumayushi on this champion that, if given the space, can really lose control. I mean, I think that this is a recipe for success for T1 unless Gen G does something miraculous.
I love that you said T1 on Akali as opposed to Faker on Akali, which actually
it's synonymous, right?
It's synonymous. It's perfect. And the level 60 now hit, as you pointed out, Vadi Chova's getting those 3 items hit. And it's really weird because I do feel like T1 was absolutely demolishing this game. I still think they are highly favored in this game. They're going to get the soul point, and I don't think Gen G really has anything that they can do about that. But there's got to be a point where the inhibs have to start falling, or the Baron has to be threatened as the check comes through. Obviously quite early,
but
not really going to spot
those
anything.
Those 2 dragons were so valuable because it kind of just bought them time. they can choose to concede this objective as well. The top wave being pushed in, Gen.G playing the side lanes methodically. They're not over-forcing their hand. And what felt like a beatdown earlier, it felt like that we were going round for round in a boxing match, and T1 was just generating point after point after point. But now we're kind of in this back and forth, a lot of dodging's been happening, and Gen.G have been able to stall out enough where it feels like their stamina has been regained, and a single good punch from them could be enough to swing the whole game.
Especially now, that third item does come through here for Pays. He's feeling a whole lot better in this game right now. And on his Ezreal, we know that Ezreal can do some pretty ridiculous things as the game goes on, thanks to Elk for letting us know. Pays is no stranger to it. This was, in fact, one of his first mains that we ever saw. Him in Challenger is something that Chronicle will not shut up about.
Well, I was going to talk about it, actually, but thank you for being
That's
out on
good.
me.
That helps. That goes with the vibe.
Real smart.
Well, no, I don't
like
have to.
I feel like you've cast with him before.
Yeah, no, I've seen him around.
Every now and then.
He looks like an imposter. He looks like Chronicler from back in the LCK, but he's got this moustache, so it can't be him.
As T1 desperately tries to catch someone of Gen.G off guard. For T1, though, the guarantee of the next Drake setup is amazing, because Gen.G has only 2 Drakes, so they can very happily give that up, whereas Gen.G 100% is going to have to play towards that Soul. I know that in theory you can do the, okay, you get Soul, we get Baron, but it's Hextech Soul. We saw in the previous game how hard the game becomes to play out, and Guma's volleys alone are going to be an absolute nuisance if you're trying to play, particularly if you're trying to play very far forward, very aggressively. The slow makes it so hard. Gen.G still setting up these traps, but it's so easy for T1 to check.
Yeah, Hawkshot is a pretty powerful ability. True Shot Barrage not going to find any joy here as Faker on a flank angle taking control of the mid lane, and you've got the split push and Gragas, that nimble large man moving in the bottom lane, trying to put pressure on Gen.G.
I don't know if you guys ever get this, but I have this weird feeling that Chovy's going to do something really crazy.
Like in your waters?
Owner?
Oh yeah, Owner was thinking about it. The arrow is going to go wide, but still Spirit Rush has to be invested as Pays gets caught by Handshake, and now over the wall they go, but Owner might be going a little bit too far. You've got Zayas coming in though, just trying to be the hero, and speaking of heroes, Faker finds Pays, but not enough damage. Lahens the first to go down in the exchange, and now Gen.G are scattered. Pays is dead, and Zayas says, you cannot take this belly. It's going to be Canyon that goes down next, and T1 will take down this inhibitor turret. It took a little while, but I think they're just going to move through and win Game 3.
And all that tension deflates as the turnaround is found. T1 not going to let Gen.G claw their way back in this game. Canyon tries to flash just to clear the wave.
Yeah, King desperately trying to hold them, but he cannot, and now it's Chovy left on his lonesome. He's going to need to be that hero as these minions are going to now join these Nexus turrets. Lahens just trying to buy some time, and he knows that this game is over. Chovy just trying to get back to his fountain. Goes golden alongside Faker as the Nexus is not going to go down. The perfect execution of T1 in this game, exemplified by their mid laner on the fountain of Gen.G, and they'll move to match point.
I just love that Zayas ended the fight with a beautiful bomber. The Gragas ultimate to set up on the Keen. Just a fantastic team fight. But I mean, gentlemen, that game was tense, but we got to go to a break, so make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a bit.
This is what you
sweat that I flowed. I just handle my zone. I'm going hard for my city, yeah. I put that thing on my back. Get it and gun it. I'm back on 100. I'm ready. I'm coming in for the attack. I'm on beast mode, God level, cheat code, new age, hero, good verse, Evo. I'm on the move. I'm on the move. I'm putting in work. I go berserk, got something to prove. Cause I got power. I got the energy for all of my enemies. I'm on the way, saving the day. Ain't no one ahead of me. I'm on the right here, right now. This is the moment we running it. This is the moment we running it. We doing this for the love of it. Give me a lives in my soul. It drives me to my goal. There's no distance I won't go. Cause the climb's all that I know. And I faced it all on my own. So my name will be known. Yeah, my name will be known. Right here, right now. This is the moment we running it. This is the moment we running it. We doing this for the love of it. Give me a move through and win Game 3.
It's no use denying the T1 magic. When it's at Worlds, it keeps happening. When in the last game, Gen.G tried to remind them what happens in the LCK, they snap back and tell them what usually happens at international tournaments, and especially at Worlds. And we find Faker and T1 to be the first to match point. I mean, sometimes when I watch this game and I watch T1 at Worlds, I just think, how did they do it? Because this was a shellacking in Game 3.
Well, they did start out with getting Owner on Vi instead of Kindred. I think that was a really good one. Blue side was big.
Yeah, I do want to go through some of the drafts in the series because we talked about, okay, you know, Gen.G were really tested by FlyQuest to do something like super creative, but here, especially in this last game, we see them returning to this kind of combo here, which we saw from them. This is kind of the skeleton of that Aurora and Twitch composition that we saw them bring out against HLE. I actually really loved the Twitch ban here. I thought that was smart. And then to your point, Kobe, I think this is great. I think Vi is such a good champion for Owner, but the big pick for me, the Ashe for Kumayushi. I think that has been stellar, and then the Gragas.
I think it's also been a really cool swap up for what Carrier traditionally plays. Like Renata, Braum have been the two picks he's gone for. It is consistently. I know that Gen G only have one style. They are going to play dive. They are going to jump in on us because that's what we've seen from them every single time. And T1 are basically saying, hey, yeah, we'll catch you with a Renata. We'll try and set up with the Braum, which didn't work as well. But it is countering what Gen G have brought to the table every time. And Gen G do not have an answer for what T1 are bringing.
And mainly also, it seems like they are getting more questions thrown at them, maybe even from their own decision making. Because let's look at a sequence of play, right? In grubs and at the grubs, and then also in the mid lane. I did not know, or I did not. If you took the nameplates off, I wouldn't believe you that this was Gen G.
So T1 are way more coordinated than Gen G were in this game. Like it's undoubted, and honestly, like. Gen G, they're the ones to set this up, but why isn't Canyon ulting earlier on Nocturne to try and lock Faker's teleport out? They also don't teleport Chovy in very early. And so T1, another really good engage for them, turning around. But it did feel like really weird to see Gen G be the ones that are so uncoordinated.
But also here, like Lehen's getting caught as they try to go underneath the tower. This reminds me of like game 1 against FlyQuest, where Lehen's tries to engage on towards quad in the mid lane. Seraphine ulted, completely shut down. These over-aggressions and just not being in position as they try to take these plays. It's really strange because this is not what we would usually see from Gen G domestically.
And by contrast, here you see the coordination from T1, not just in team fights, but they know exactly where they want to go on the map. They use these grubs so well. I did call them out in the last game for being like, why are you fighting over that 6th grub, right? You've already got 5, you guys are fine. But they've been so well coordinated on these like 4 or sometimes 5-man pushes with grubs onto turrets, rotating around the map. You could see it in that sequence. They knew exactly where they wanted to go. They moved as a unit, and it's fantastic.
And they're showing style here at Worlds too. I see you on the I'm gonna do it as well. Like the magic is really there. We'll see again as we switch back to blue side. But it really has been like difference in play.
It has. I mean, and things like Lehen's, right, who we know is very good at macro, who calls a lot of the moves of Gen G, generally the one to be out of position. A big discussion that we've had here backstage is, for me, there's a difference between ADCs in terms of Guma and Pays, in that I believe in Guma and in that bot lane, even from behind or from even, not just from ahead. And even though Pays has done things to dispel that in summer, right, Emily? Outside of the finals, I don't know. You know, when he's... And here he had an opportunity, right? If they scale further into that game, but it's him who gets caught out again. And I don't want to put everything on him because the whole team lost that game, right? But it is these differences that you need to look to make.
But I think that's like pressure makes diamonds, right? And unfortunately, when we look at finals in LCK, Pays didn't step up. And then you look at the game against FlyQuest, it feels like, you know, Hanwha kind of found the issues in Gen G. FlyQuest managed to crack it, and it feels like T1 are finally breaking those foundations here, where you're not getting the big performers. They're not finding Chovy these lane matchups where he can be super successful and take over in the mid to late game. You're not having your carries perform, and now T1 are saying, no, we're going to go to the style that's worked for us. We take over in the early game. We play through our side lanes well. We get these cheeky Baron sneaks when you're least expecting it. It feels like T1 are still playing to their identity on an international stage, whereas Gen G feel like they've just lost themselves because those doubts have started to sink in.
Yeah, and I want to pull up Gen G's record over T1 in the LCK and internationals, because I think it makes T1's performance here so much more impressive, right? They are the 4th seed. They are 1 game against KT away from not making it. And here you see MSI 2023 highlighted. We had already set it up in one of our prior thing. I think it was you, Dagda, that said that, where they got the better of them at an international event at a very crucial moment. And now they're on match point once again, now at Worlds, defending their world title.
It all hangs in the balance again for Chovy, you know. I wrote down under Gen G in my preparation as a logline, if this team can't win Worlds, who can, right? But I feel like in the course of the tournament, we've seen other teams perhaps adapt better. And I think for me, that's what they're going to have to show. In the same vein, though, I'm not ready to write this one off because we haven't seen a team break the red side situation yet, right? So T1 would have to do it here.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't, then T1 or BLG can. That's for sure.
The adaptations are proactively being taken away by T1. Smolder, gone. The draft is already set up where T1 go, we know what you are like. We know Gen G inside and out. We know what they're going to fall back to, and they're stopping them every step of the way. T1 are in their heads, and I don't know if Gen G have a comeback here.
And all year we've been talking, or I mean, I know I've been talking about Knight versus Chovy, right? Like, we want to see this matchup. We saw it at MSI finally. This was going to be our destined world final, but in the way stands Faker, and this is a rerun of that Chovy quote where he, again, would know this more than anyone because he's had to deal with it domestically. Now he has to really step up, prove himself against Faker to make it to finals.
Chovy has to step up, Gen G as a whole has to step up, and we have seen it from Gen G before. Spring this year, Game 4, it was the Kazakh pick from Canyon that completely changed everything in that series. Gen G are never counted out until that bell rings, and this is where they have to find that magic once more.
Beautifully said. Let's head over to our casters.
Thank you so much, Dactor. I think that's such a good point because I want to give everyone some faith that we could be going to a Game 5, right? Like, that's the main thing, and we're already straight into draft as the Callista and the Xayah are still going to be banned away, and I saw that little look on your face there, Chronicler. I'm also not that psyched about it. I want to see a little bit more adaptation. I don't know whether the Xayah is a necessary ban.
And given Guma's performance and how comfortable he is on the champion, it makes sense. But I'm a big believer in when you see a champion just consistently be an issue. In this case, it's the Ashe. Even in the games where Ashe wasn't able to actually get over the line, I feel like the pick has just felt so strong. It gives so much utility while also being a lane bully.
Well, now they can first pick it. Now T1 is saying, hey, by the way, do you want to ban Aurora or do you want to ban Ashe? And because Gen G is going to take one of them, the Aurora comes through, you imagine the Ashe is the first pick. T1 now have the choice around, do they want to grab themselves the Vi? It's proven to be very effective, but also what is their answer into it? Because the truth is, Guma hasn't really shown something like an Ezreal, right? This is not something that he goes to, which we've seen as a typical answer at Worlds. Jhin would be his likely response. Something like the Caitlyn would be his usual. Maybe a Draven could come through. But given the current meta, with all the presence of the lane swaps, I'm not sure how effective they are.
And I was going to say that this is something that we've seen come out sparingly this Worlds. This was Gumayusi's best champion for a long time. His Varus steals Barons, steals hearts, it's incredible. As Ona just playing with ours just a little bit there with the hover of the Kindred. We'll see whether he does go back to that one as he's hovering over quite a few options. The Skarner could be a great pick away and he is going to lock that one in.
Is this a, in case of emergency, pick Canyon Nidalee situation again? We saw it come up against FlyQuest.
He's got a smile
I'm
on his
seeing
face.
a very slight smile on that man's face, and this was the pick that brought Gen G to Silver Scrapes. He single-handedly, and they're just running it back. They were here last week.
Yep, we've got some tape of this one, you know? Let's see what the answer is going to be from T1 though, because of course they know exactly what to expect.
I mean, Canyon's Nidalee. What else is there really to say? I mean, you're 100% right. Jax would be a great pick. It looks like that's going to be the lock-in for T1. Double 80 carry comps. Jax loves those. His E gets so much value out of it. He offers so much zone control. But, I mean, Game 4, backs against the wall. The Nidalee comes through. The ban of the Cassante is so crucial for Keen. I think that it's such a safe top lane pick, just in general, but in Keen's hands, it's also a devastating carry threat that you don't want to run the risk of him getting. Now, on the side of Gen G, they can look to pinch the mid lane pool a little bit more. Maybe they remove the Ahri for themselves. No, they're actually targeting Keria. They're really trying to limit the options that this bot lane has.
Yeah, playmaking for Keria, I think, is a great thing to target, especially when Keria is coming off a win. Because when he has that mojo, when he's feeling it, it can be very scary to go up against this guy when he has confidence, as Braum is going to be taken away from
really
the
good.
hands.
And also from Keria. I actually really like that ban there from T1. What feels most likely here is the R4 on Renata, trying to get a strong 2v2 and play through that. But it does open up a Lance counter pick.
What about a...
That's something that I don't think they necessarily want to go towards. And they're going to save the Keria counter pick, and this shouldn't come as a surprise. But I do worry about the Ahri, as we have seen it be pretty hit or miss, but it's Faker, so I give him the benefit
it's
of the
Faker's
doubt.
Ari. Like, his Ari has been very good at this World Championship, and I think that it makes it, like, this is a very Genji-esque comp in the side of T1.
It is.
Meanwhile, Genji, the Poppy, I think, offers a decent amount of value here, both into the Ari and into the Jax.
Playing towards Keen's team fighting as well, I think, is a really good idea in this game, because I think that when Keen is under pressure, that's what he plays towards, not necessarily smashing lane.
They need a Leona or a Rao right now. They need some engage to come through from Genji. I think T1 might be thinking about a Rakan, which is why they saved the pick for later as well, because crucially, the Maokai is often used as a response, but...
Oh, is he cooking?
He's going to lock in the Maokai anyway.
Oh, keeping it a flex?
You're right.
So they don't know what's going to go where, and it also locks out the Rakan pick. The main reason why we see this Maokai is because it is so strong into the Rakan.
Yeah,
and now there's Poppy as well.
Yeah. So actually creates a bit of an awkward scenario. Normally this is where we would go Bard, particularly into the immobile AD carry of the Ashe.
Yeah.
It's not available.
Is it a pike angle?
Oh, that'd be fun. I don't know whether it is. That would certainly be... Oh, okay, yeah, it's a pike angle.
It's always a pike angle.
For Carrier it is. Those bone skewers are targeted for this guy. Watching that series blew my mind. Vadius, I'm so glad that you had your finger on the pulse there, because this could be fireworks on the bottom side of the map. Genji, certainly, with some experimentation here. Right now, it looks like the Maokai is going to be going into the support position, and Keen will be taking the Poppy into the Jax on the top side. In the LCK, this is seen as a really good matchup for the Poppy, and so something that Keen has played around before.
I mean, I think even internationally, we've seen it do wonders into the Jax matchup as well, especially if you're confident on the Poppy. The crucial thing for me is when playing Ashe, you need lane prio. Sorry, Ashe. When you're playing with Nidalee, you need that lane prio. We've seen Canyon succeed so well at playing around the strength and push of his lanes to put pressure on the enemy jungle, and like it is the way in which old school Damwon thrived. The laners play for Canyon. I mean, me and Quickshot back in the day used to have a thing called Ring the Beryl, where Beryl would cover for lanes to help them push out waves so the Canyon could keep farming, right? This is a champion synonymous with this jungler, and it's so crucial that his laners give him the prio to play the champion to perfection and allow him to thrive in the ways that he so often does.
And we're all hoping it goes to game number 5,
100%.
but if this doesn't work for Genji, then I don't know what would have, right? I know that Tristana not in the spot that she was before, but you somehow get both Tristana and Maokai, which was a combo that was basically never be allowed to play, while also getting Canyon Italy.
That is definitely an incredible thing. However, this is T1 at Worlds, and T1 with match point. Moving into this game number 4, a date with BLG next week in London is what's on the line, and there is only one step left to take.
And they are double Halo Blitzing.
Oh, God,
we remember from spring 2023, when you see those keystones, the enemy bot lane is about to have a bad time.
Something's going down. Something is definitely going down.
To fight. It's just unbelievable that T1's even in this position. I feel like that so many fans that only watch internationally think this is just another year for T1.
Yeah,
like last year, reigning world champions here in the semifinals at match point. Of course, why wouldn't they be here? They were also top 3 at MSI.
Well, the thing that's ridiculous as well is that last year, if you look at summer, it ain't a great time for T1 either. So maybe fans are just like, oh yeah, we're used to this.
Yeah.
You just have a little bit of a lull before you come back up again. It's like the swell of the ocean.
Spot him with the sweeper. I think they spotted each other.
Information now going over as Bones. He's going to pull Pace in, he has to flash, and T1 outplay them.
The invaders come through from Genji though. Canyon going to be able to steal away this buff. We'll see how Ona responds as we get standard matchups. Now this bot lane I feel is very volatile. Ashe lanes typically give you a lot of control and prio, but Varus is a lane bully in his own right. His E gives him a lot of control over the lane in the similar way that the volley does for the Ashe. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Chovy leveraging his pro. We talked about how important that is for the Nidalee. As the blue is taken away, Canyon returns to his side of the jungle.
I think we're going to need to see another Chovying performance, much like we saw in Game 5 against FlyQuest on his Smolder. We're going to need to see absolute domination, stay ahead of the curve, make sure that these items come in at exactly the right times. All right, Carrier finding the Bone Skewer onto the hands. That's another flash. They'll take that, and this is a T1 bottom lane that, yes, we've always known that they're capable of. We haven't really seen this level of aggression for a long time.
Pays even went for Halo Blades himself just to try and be able to trade a little bit better, stack up that passive early. The main thing for Gen G is that the bottom lane is still alive and relatively healthy. We also have Owner on the opposite side of the map, and Canyon is starting, or should be able to build a lead once the actual full care comes through, because he got that early buff on Owner's or in Owner's jungle.
Ona, I think, actually expected his Grom to also be taken. He took the walls, then path back up towards the top side, which is the most frustrating thing for T1, because you look at that bot lane matchup and we're like, Ona, dive now, please dive. But because of his pathing, it's hard for him to actually be in a position to really set that up. He's setting his sights on mid after Faker got a really nice trade onto Chovy.
Yeah, Ona now driving in, looking for Chovy, just gets the flash. I think the rocket jump must have been on cooldown, and Ona is just going to take that explosive charge and be absolutely fine. Meanwhile, setting up for a potential dive is another max range bone skewer going to connect from Carrier. This guy, it's targeted, right?
That's now 3 flashes down, and for a pick as volatile as Pyke, that is a playground. You have so many lanes to play through. Owner, will Canyon hold off? They are going to know with the saplings. Canyon, I think, is going to try and play through the fog, not try and show himself.
Yeah, Carrier moving on over, was hit by one of the traps there, so information was given as to his whereabouts, and they will just back away.
If that back completes, that bot lane is not surviving.
So, momentum-wise, you feel like everything's going the way of T1. The bot lane 2 versus 2 is winning out on the skirmishes. They got both the flashes. In the mid lane, Faker out-trading Chovy. I mean, not resulting in a huge CS lead, but still going well overall. What's crucial to remember is that Canyon is continuing to farm. Canyon's Nidalee is not terrifying within the first 4 minutes of the game, but for every minute that goes by, this champion will continue to get stronger. Keen in the top lane matchup continues to do well. It's a tough matchup for the Jacks as well. And so Gen G definitely don't have to be too terrified, even though the bot isn't going the way that they would like.
I'm also wondering if Canyon thought that Owner took his blue, because his blue has actually been up since the start of the game, because they they read the early play from, because Carrier caught Pays, right? So I assume Canyon made the read. I figured when he went to his Gromp, he would have seen it, but Keen.
Oh yeah, there's another bone skewer being charged up. First one that he's going to miss outright. And Keen will survive.
Ice cold.
Yeah, I like that. Just continuing to walk. It's the continue to walk strategy, one that we haven't seen for quite a while. No jukes abound.
And Chronicle has been talking about this, the impact of the supports, right? We saw it from Carrier Game 1. Game 2, we saw Lehens very active on the map. Game 3, I think both supports were trying to make plays around the map, but with Carrier kind of just finding those advantages because T1 was finding advantages. But now Carrier's on a champion that has so much agency, but his AD carry is a low.
Oh yeah, Gumayushi in a lot of trouble. Does have to use that cleanse. Okay, he's going to take some damage back though, as, yeah, that's a decent trade.
Remember
Still,
they did
summon a spell advantage.
He did do that thing last year.
Yeah, I remember that
outplayed.
I was about to say they did buff the lethality virus a little bit more, and as you rightly said, this man has a bit of a history on this champion.
I'm actually surprised it hasn't come out more this Worlds, to be perfectly honest. I think it's in a decent position, especially in the hands of players like Gumayushi, who are so incredibly good at it.
We talked about it on the way here, didn't we, Atlas? Where, like, the mobility and how, like, in the meta it feels it can be difficult to play, but in a position like this...
Yeah, Faker looking for Canyon, trying to find that opportunity, scaring him with where the shot might go. Point blank, the charge, the stun, but the knockback with the monster shot is not enough, and first blood goes to Faker's Ahri, and it's Faker's Ahri. That's the biggest thing here, because Ahri has been such a curse for so many teams. We actually have the stats here for both Faker and Chovy, and it is a different story when it's the unkillable Demon King that has it. As another charm is going to connect. Gumayushi executes. Lehens, they do try and even out the fight as Faker is evicted, but T1 are still standing their ground. A great start for the defending world champions as Gen G do manage to get back some control of this grub pit, and I believe for the very first time we're going to trade a couple of grubs instead of just taking 3.
That's such a hefty prize though. Lehens gets blown up, but it's the kill on Canyon in particular that is the biggest thing here. Early on, getting taken out. Faker further accelerated than Chovy on a nerf Tristana, not able to find the impact as this couldn't be a better time for this graphic to come up.
No, exactly right. Here with match point in hand, Faker on a champion that he's been synonymous with for a very long time. There's quite a few of those, of course. Sure. Oriana, Azir, Rise, like
But
there's
this one has
plenty.
a special
Zed is a pretty
skin.
good one. This one does have a special skin. LeBlanc also has a special skin, and the win rates for both his LeBlanc and his Ari are about equally ridiculous.
So world skin aren't special anymore?
Yeah, I mean, they're all special. I was just saying that there's a lot of special.
Extra special, okay?
When everything's special, you have to sort of redefine where it lies, you know?
Now, Gen G have a stacked wave on the top side. T1 have read the play effectively. Faker's on the rotation. Carrier.
Yeah, can he charge it? He does find a knockback onto FaZe. There's the crash into the wall as well. Lehen's just caught out and explodes. Onu's going to grab kill credit for that one, and T1 seem to do no wrong.
It's an aftershock that ends up picking up the kill as Zeus is pushing on the bottom side of the map. 3 kills for T1. And we talked about the momentum earlier, but it feels like that this train just continues to ride in the way of T1's victory.
And Lehens, that was a journey he did not want to take, trying to punish Carrier, but we have seen this, I think, with a lot of the jungle Maokais. You learn the lesson pretty quickly. If
You
the enemy
definitely
champion
do.
has a dash, do not just W in. He did it there, gets very, very heavily punished, and now we already have a 1.5k gold lead here for T1, only 8.5 minutes in.
You wouldn't think, watching this series, that Gen G have been the father of T1 for so long in their domestic history. Because Worlds T1 is just a different beast. They are the only team in the world where the plot line truly seems to be unbreakable.
Yeah, the script really just seems, like, as much as you talk about it, it still seems infallible. As, all right, looking for a bit of an opportunity towards Gumayushi, but he does the walk strat, moves away. Carrier will be able to move back up again, trying to dodge vision as he does get back up there, but is going to be spotted on the edge of that ward. So full information does go on over. So moving into a state of slightly less action as we look towards maybe a dragon take. Of course, that hasn't been looked at just yet. Still 10 minutes into the game, would be a relatively late one.
And one thing to do, keep in mind, is that this game still feels less explosive than the previous Pyke game we saw. And T1 did have some issues closing that one out.
They
Pyke,
did.
As good as Pyke is, and for as long as we've seen Carrier play this is the game state that you want, and I think we need to see more objectives, right? Like, I think the gold alone is nice, but I want to see dragons being taken early, and I want to see that Rift Herald take down that mid lane, because the moment that control of the map is ceded and vision starts to drop, that's when the Pyke feels unpunishable.
And I also think that this whole series has been about who can play the game plan that they wanted to play coming out of the draft. And I don't think that either team has been denied just yet. In the shellackings that we had games 2 and 3, it's because Gen G and T1 both enabled their win conditions so incredibly well. This time around, we haven't quite seen that happen just yet. Still an opportunity for Gen G to try and turn the tides of this one with moving Chovy into side lanes, obliterating these turrets and creating leads that way.
The only problem for Gen G right now is they're not in a great position for grubs. They have just secured the Dragon, which is a nice pickup for sure. However, on the top side of the map is T1's bot lane. Zeus does have the TP available. I'm pretty sure he has it available at the very least in a few seconds. So this is going to be a difficult objective to contest, meaning that 4 grubs will go in the favor of T1.
Don't let it go. No possible contest, and a Nidalee composition that isn't able to snowball early objectives.
And a Tristana composition that doesn't get a decent amount of grubs.
Yep, quite rough, and there is vision. Gen G obviously knew that this was happening.
Oh, Carrier for a bone skewer on his on Keen there towards the top side.
Canyon pathing back towards top, ready for a potential dive. Knows that Keen needs to catch this wave, and he's working with Chovy to clear out some vision. Nice spear connects. We're going to be saying that a lot this game, I feel.
Yep.
We'll see how impactful those spears end up being, though, as now these neutral objectives fall away from the Rift. We turn back to a neutral game state, and these teams turn their attention towards the remaining plates. 2.5 minutes remaining until those fall off completely, and you're going to be seeing teams cross-map. Look to try and secure as many of these as possible to funnel that early gold injection to get ready for those first items. As you can see, Malignance and Heartsteel already completed for Faker and Ona.
And it's so interesting thinking about where team fights are going to go later on in the game, because I feel like anytime a Poppy exists, any team fight can go towards the Poppy team if that ultimate is going to be used effectively, especially when it's you know, say Owner gets an amazing ultimate and then gets just Poppy ulted away, and then, you know, if it's a 3-man ulti, he just dies. That could be kind of funny. Certainly some interactions that could work out there, but it really does change the tide of how this game is going to work.
There's also a lot of champions on T1 that rely on their mobility to make plays in fights, right? Pyke is the most obvious one, but even for Ahri, it's the case is, I don't know if they really have an angle. They don't have any vision, so they don't want to risk it. 2v2 could not go their way, but the fact that the Maokai, even with Lahens having a really rough performance so far, in team fights, in theory, should be able to do something like, look at the game state, look at the map state. Carrier is everywhere. Paze just keeps having to drop waves. Owner's looking for a possible punish now, and reinforcement on the way. I don't know if they're in time.
Flash has to come out because those Chains of Corruptions would have just killed Paze, especially with the Scorpion making his way in. Lahens a little bit late to defend the Summoner spell of his lane partner. Still, just plates going over for T1. As, man, that bone skewer very, very close to lopping down the tree. That's what you do, right? You lop down trees?
Yeah, it's correct, actually. That's the perfect terminology.
Sure.
Herald, going to be the next objective that lobbing will be commencing. We'll see who gets that objective, as right now the T1 members are resetting. Vision needs to be replenished, gold needs to be spent. Gen.G going to push out these waves. We'll give them initial access to the topside river, but it means that they haven't had that opportunity to base, spend some gold, and look at those items between the 280 carries. No Blade of the Ruin King completed yet for Paze, or even Static Shiv, rather, I should say. And we'll see what direction he goes as...
Yeah, and getting Gumayusi onto that single item before Paze gets there as well. We know what this guy can do with his Varus. He is just exceptionally strong on this pick, as Carrier continuing to be annoying. And like you were saying, this guy is pretty good on Varus, as we can see.
He's somewhat familiar, yes.
Yeah, somewhat.
This feels like a Hail Mary here for Gen.G. If they lose
can't
this
start
fight,
a Baron, though, because Gumayusi's on Varus, like we were talking about. You can't do that. We're talking about plot armor. I mean, that's to bridge too far, as now Owner is just trying to bully them out of the area.
Baker's actually gone back to base. He does have the TP available. He's going to commit it now to the top tower.
Might even be able to grab an outer before he makes that flank happen.
This is it.
She'll be able to lock it in as Keen gets in there before the arrow does come down. Slightly mistimed, but yeah, Keen was already softened up. And you can see Zeus makes his way into the mid lane. They are taking control of the lanes as Gen.G are committing onto this Rift Herald. Chains of Corruption going to connect onto Lahens. He's throwing down the ulti, but he's just dead. There's nothing he can do, but Keen gets rid of 2, and now Baker, he's able to dance his way out. Carrier, he's burning, but he should be absolutely fine. Regens that health because he's out of vision. And Chovy still in a little bit of trouble. Zay's going to take a mid lane out of turret at the same time. They take the Rift Herald, but at what cost?
Way too much cost. They give up 2 turrets. A kill goes over again. And the Herald alone is never going to be able to recuperate all that loss.
It's a devastating position for Gen.G to be in. The lane economy snapshot represents the difference in gold right now.
I would say there's an economic advantage for T1.
That there is. And T1, they do sacrifice the Herald. It was an awkward position for them to really get in because of the Maokai ultimate. But they secured the top tower, they secured the mid tower. Honestly, T1 was a little greedy even trying to contest that because they committed both top and mid to securing those outer towers. They got level 11, and then I thought they were trying to collapse. But of course, getting a pick is still worth it after securing those objectives. Second dragon of the game will go towards T1, equalizing that up. But the goal difference is the most crucial thing.
Oh God, another one! We got the big souls in this series, and also this means that we've got Hex Gates, so teams can fight a whole lot more than they otherwise would. Also gives you a little bit of leeway in your movement around the map as well. Can certainly feel good to try and snowball things further forward.
I also have to apologize, my 80 carry animation, Kraken Slayer, secured for Paze. Going to be the first item, a valuable first item, of course, the additional attack speed, but it still doesn't solve the problem of into this Jax. We've already seen how 80 carries fare when playing into this in Game 2, when T1 tried their hand at the double 80 carry into the Jax. But the presence that Zeus is going to be providing in these fights is going to make it very difficult for Chovy and Paze to play optimally.
Oh man, T1 going to be able to clean up the last remaining outer turret here as well. Faker going to claim credit for that one on his Ahri. Now looking for a back angle. Is he going... Interesting itemization here. A little bit of a stretch away from what we have seen otherwise as the Lich Bane does come through. This is something that used to be in vogue a lot, but I think a lot of players have moved away from it towards the Liandrys instead. But Faker has really liked Lichbane for a little bit of extra side lane power.
And I know we've mentioned it a lot as a hold that thought lands might be in trouble again, but looks like he's going to be okay. Although Guma
manages to catch him on the juke, and he explodes one more. Owner's like, all right, let's just turn away. We are not required.
Lahens 0-7 in the last game, 0-4 in this one. Just not able to be where he needs to be, but I want to hone in on T1's performance, because this team was, and if you experienced it, you'll know, but the team that played against KT could not be further away. And I know they do it every year, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it is such a transformation, because it wasn't just the meta, right? It was also the cohesion of the members, the confidence.
I mean, remember that in a world where there is no 4th seed, T1 isn't here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It's just Damwon takes their spot, or D plus Kia, my apologies. Yep. But the addition of that 4th seed, allowing T1 to be here, for them to be in this position. In the past, they were denied that when they did have those slumps. They didn't make it to the World Championship, but they are an organization, and that man in the mid lane is a player that has never missed a semi-final.
And also, if they manage to win here this year, it's 2 4th seeds from the LCK winning in the last 3 years. That's kind of insane. That's even a thing we can talk about.
You guys need to stop.
We are getting a bit ahead of ourselves. We are definitely getting ahead of ourselves. T1 fans are definitely getting nervous. I apologize. I know I'm like not even allowed to tweet about this team anymore. You know that?
But the
as soon
point
as I
is,
say anything positive, they lose.
The reality is that the position that they're even in is already in and of itself ridiculous, considering the path that they took to get here. Which is why their performance right now should be reveled, given how well they've been able to level up. Now, as you rightly said, 5-0 is the score, the lead that they have. 5K is the gold lead. Baron spawns in 50 seconds. Dragon in a minute 50. Genji still have elements. They still have tools to turn the game around. It all comes down to whether or not they can punish T1 for their mistakes, and if they can find a good angle to turn these fights in their favor.
And Genji have been pushed many times this year. TES brought them to 5 games at MSI after a 2-0 lead. They were able to persevere.
Faker looking for the chant, doesn't get it. On to Canyon there, but gets the true damage on that Orbit Deception. As Lahan's allowed to drive once again. I don't know about it as he gets pulled back immediately, but he's able to absorb a lot of it still. The answering Impale is so good. The arrow is going to connect onto the backline, onto Carrier to deny him bone skewering anyone forward. And Genji, I mean, it was dangerous, but they get out of there after the charge, just not earning that much.
A very tense back and forth as T1 is able to protect their mid-tier 1. Genji, the idea was pretty promising there. The Ash Arrow didn't actually connect onto the Skarner. If it had slightly further away from the tower, that could have been an opportunity for Genji at the very least to get a pick. But it connects onto Carrier on the back line, which they really couldn't follow up on. Ultimately, though, no one ends up dropping. Genji have good setup for this top tower, but the TP is committed. Can they dive?
We'll see. It's going to be a fair bit of damage onto this one. Spear is going to be coming out perfectly. There's the twisted advance. The charm goes wide. Faker's dead. That is going to be Canyon taking him down, but it's now Zeus trying to be the hero. He catches Canyon with the Counter-Strike stun, and he's under the wrong turret. Lahan's going to go down for the 5th time, and it's a double for the other solo laner. They may have got Faker, but this is what he does. He baits them into death, and it's Baron started for T1.
Every T1 fan has seen this one before. You think you catch Faker in the side lane, and Genji, they know they can't contest this Baron. They're just TPing to mid to try and get something in return.
Genji just wanted the tower. Faker TP's in. They sit there and say to themselves, this should be an easy pick. His ulti wasn't off cooldown, but the collapse was crucial. Genji, I don't think you can do this dragon. They're going to start it, but the collapse is coming through. Faker's back out onto the map. Zeus as well.
All right. Genji do manage to make their way back out. As Keen also trying to get back. But man, this is only the start of the devastation. We've got 2.5 minutes of T1 with Baron. They're going to start by trying to take down this dragon. With the resets coming through from Genji, there's not going to be an opportunity. Gumayushi coming on over will start to make short work of it. 2 items for this Lethality Varus. T1 really just have Genji exactly where they want them. This is such a change from what we saw in this exact matchup in spring of this year, but that was a very different Genji. That was a Genji that looked impossible to take down. They took 2 games then. They're looking to only miss 1 in this series if things continue going the way they're going. Genji with opportunities to try and create miracles, but it's looking like they're going to need exactly that. They want to make their way back into this one. Only a 4,000 gold lead. Still looking pretty rough.
I mean, worlds aside, the fact that T1 is even getting revenge for a rivalry that has been so Genji favored domestically in and of itself is impressive. As we look back at the dive, the idea, I mean, it makes so much sense from Genji. Dive onto Faker. He's an easy pick. Even if the TP comes through, we can turn it. But they don't expect Ona to collapse this quickly as well. A beautiful flash from Zeus to get that stun for Canyon. He leaves the tower to finish off the kill, and they convert it onto Lehens as well.
Canyon actually, I think, got aggro because of the Leandries. So because he hit the perfect spear to set up the initial damage, because there was a wave, not a big one, but would have been enough, but as a result takes so much damage. Baron still here for another minute. Genji just desperately clinging on to their world's dreams.
Steadfast presence now on cooldown for a little while as T1 look to set up a 5-man siege on this inner turret. At 23 minutes, sieging is quite difficult unless the Bone Skewer comes through. The arrow is denied by the ulti from Keen, but now with only 2 stragglers here, Zeus will explode. It's Canyon that locks up the kill as Keen dives in once again. Pei is able to take down Carrier, but it's Gumayushi standing tall and taking down Keen. Still a positive trade for Genji is still huge news.
Keen actually diving in there, denied the ultimate from Carrier. Otherwise, Carrier maybe could have gotten the resets, but because Keen jumped to his death, no resets for Carrier. He ends up getting focus going down, and it's not enough, but think back to that previous game where Genji held on tenuous for so long.
T1 have shown tendencies at this World Championship to overforce. They throw the ultimate out, a beautiful response from Keen to create a numbers advantage. They have the confidence then to turn it back as they get a kill onto Zeus, and you'll see here this play. Nicely done from Keen to avoid the resets from Carrier. He knows how dangerous that could have been. And sighs of relief as Genji stay fighting here in Game 4.
And Helper's not even there. I think that guy is just completely overly stressed at this point in time. I'm sure he'll be back as this game does go on, but there was a little bit of a grin on Marta's face. Coach Kim as well, not looking all doom and gloom. They are still in this. We'll see. T1, Baron has worn off. 2.5 minutes until that one's back up once again. Still a 4,000 gold lead, 5,000, something like that. Not end of the world, but 2 items now onto Chovy. 2.5 on Pays. 1-0-1 now, actually picking up a lot of that money in the last fight. Could be huge here for Genji.
Death kept done here for Faker.
He's pretty strong.
He is very strong. I would argue also just now the transformation for Guma. So T1 do have an opportunity. The one Drake, not as good of a cushion as last time, but still is going to be a big difference maker for Genji. Means that they probably should be able to get it to 3 items on their double 80 carries. The issues don't stop there though, because Zeus on this Jax in a wonderful position is building towards that stopwatch as well, allowing him to play very far into the back line.
The problem I see for Genji is this poke is a problem. And Keen, I think it's going to be fine.
Extremely tanky.
Yeah, but the poke is a problem, and not only is it a problem, like, they don't have the best engaged tools. T1 have a lot of ways to just run away from a fight. Ona. What? Now, I don't think T1 need to be forcing this hard. Like, Dragon spawns in a minute's time, so does Baron. Ona committing his flash there, I think, is a bit of a fumble, because now he doesn't have the potential play set up with his ulti later. And, like, this is a tendency we see with T1 sometimes when they have a big lead. They sometimes overforce. They did the same thing against Top Esports. They ended up still winning because, again, the gold lead is theirs. But they need to calm down because, as you both have already highlighted, Genji are a patient team. They will happily weather the storm.
I want to go back to the last game as well, though, because T1 were playing very patiently, very slowly, only taking the guaranteed advantages from around the map. This feels a little bit different. Might have something to do with that Pike being that good sidestep, but the charm is going to land here from Faker. That one chunks Keen. That's those 3 items that you guys were talking about. Faker also starting to get some Death Note stacks put together.
One of the few tools that Genji do have is actually Canyon's heal. Every single heal has a base heal of 240 going up to about 500. If you are chunked, that alone is not going to be enough, but it might be the mitigation that Genji need to at least try and contest. And it looks like they are not giving over Soul Point for free.
Well, Carrier is going to walk into Lehens here. Pike so incredibly squishy. There's the teleport from Keen. The front line will arrive. Chains of Corruption do go wide. As now Lehens, he's chunked out just a little bit, but he's going to throw his life away for a good position in a team fight. Carrier on a flank angle. It is going to be Ona taking soul point, but can they win the fight? That's a phenomenal ultimate from Keen, and Pays is untouched. Still Carrier explodes, pops like a balloon. Zeus has the counter-strike, but he has no friends. Faker dives in to try and save him. The flash on the Ruby, and it's a double kill. Pays now standing his ground. Gumayushi can't do anything, and Genji will ace them with Baron up and available.
Unbelievably, Genji turned the fight in their favor. They punished the execution. Baron is alive, and Genji say, we will not go down without a fight.
You might kill the hands 5 times without getting punished, but that 6th one, he's got you right where he wants you, as the Baron is going to come through.
Oh man, and look, he may not have got the dragon or anything like that, but Canyon on this Nidalee, it always just seems to be something that can work out even when it's not supposed to. Late game Nidalee is not supposed to be a thing, but man, Keen coming in as such a hero.
The ultimate from the Maokai was huge. They're coming in from all angles, but Ona dying first. The target selection is great. They're all in the dragon pit. They then turn their attention to Zeus. A reset doesn't come through. Faker, he's only got, well, he does get 2 charges off. He tries to collapse on a Chovy to get the reset, but then a nice flash away from Chovy. It was simply a matter of Genji targeting the person in front of them. And with the double AD carries in a front-to-back composition, Gumayushi just doesn't have the consistent damage.
Well, Arrow gonna go wide as once again Genji are looking for Faker.
Not again.
And yeah, they're just like, no.
Look at that.
We
Canyon.
remember what happened. Yeah, how, like, what?
It's the most damage in the fight.
It is absolutely nutty. Maybe when he puts on Primal Surge, he gets credit for all of the extra attack speed that he gives his
I wish that we could watch that
friends.
fight again, because I feel like there were so many things that we missed. But all that matters right now
Oh,
is
God.
that Canyon's level 16.
That's a 3-item Nidalee, ladies and gentlemen.
And now it's Genji that can begin their offense. The poke from them. We talked about Gumayushi's poke. Well, now it's Canyon's turn to get a bit of revenge.
And Vedi, in the previous game, you told about the waters, you know, the feeling of, oh, what if? Because
Maybe it was just a game delayed.
Maybe. You were right, just a little bit early. Genji haven't done it yet, though, because all this has done is equalize the game, right?
Oh, my God.
But look at that jump upwards, and the double AD carry now have hit their spikes.
All right, Bone Skewer going to connect, but the spear does too. That is a decent impale, only onto one there as Lehens able to eat some turret shots, and he'll be okay. Man, that Primal Surge almost gave him his whole health bar back. And the siege will continue here, as Chovy getting more and more stacks into that passive as well. Level 16, and the spears are hitting one after the other. Faker, he wants out. He's going to kill that siege minion, and they will back away. Carrier, yeah, not wanting to stick around when he is seen on vision.
The charm from Faker didn't actually connect, even though Ono was able to land the ultimate. The top tower is now exposed as they turn their attention to mid to try and defend. T1's base is beginning to fall apart. They still have some towers remaining. But as you rightly said, Chronicle, return to an even state, and the Dragon Soul is on the horizon.
Big thing here for T1, they didn't lose any inhibitors. So this brought Genji back in the game, but T1 still will get the opportunity to get a straight-up 5v5 for this Dragon. And they can even afford to give it up. I don't think they will, given how this series has played out. A minute and a half until it's available. As an Elixir of Iron, thank you for pointing it out, Vedi. For Keen, just trying to be as beefy
Look at
as he
how
can
tanky
be.
he is, though. Like, it's crazy. The Sundered Sky, this front line is exactly what they need. I was worried about Genji's ability to engage, but around these neutral objectives, they're still able to find the fight. And what looked like a devastating collapse from T1, Genji handled it so beautifully. Summoners are coming up. Maybe T1 can find an angle before that flash is back up for Chovy and Pace, but I don't expect it. It's Genji with control around the Dragon.
The amount of homework that they're doing as well, you can see this vision shutout. Yep, lights go off. And there is an Umbral Glaive here for Carrier. They have ways to cheat vision in this game, but he's on Pike. You can't face check anything without just popping.
Yeah, particularly into both Maokai and Poppy. Another thing is that T1 doesn't actually have great hard engage. They have really good pick, which is why the game felt so one-sided. But outside of Owner going in, or like Guma, you know, going in with an ultimate, Faker hitting a charm, that is
a lot more telegraphed, or it puts you in a position of danger. And engaging onto Gen.G is also a nightmare. Tristana is notoriously hard to collapse on. There's a Poppy and Maokai combo in the game. And there's a lot
it's
of...
fascinating how quickly the dynamic
right?
shifted, right?
It's just, it's ridiculous.
But they don't need to go for this, is what I'm saying. T1 can bide their time. I just don't think they will.
Yeah, Nature's Grasp going to come out the arrow, connecting on Tona. Chains of Corruption just try and buy some space with the flash. Onto Faker, the knock-up, and he's dead. Pieces arrows follow him into the death chamber as the Impale is decent. Ona's still alive, he's so tanky, and it's Gumayushi taking matters into his own hands. The spears go wide and the Poppy goes down. It's a double kill for the Skarner, and Chovy's still alive. There's a bit of damage, but he gets over the wall, flashes, but the Bone Skewer finds him. The shutdown for Goomer and T1. They want to go to London.
And Gen.G trying to get the fight, but the Death Stormers are too long.
Oh, it's only Canyon versus the world here as T1 are taking down their first inhibitor of the game. They are not done yet. Nexus turrets stand between them and another final. He goes golden. He's holding onto the wave. He wants to take it down. He does. But another one is conga lining in. Lahens, he knows he just has to move it away from these Nexus turrets. And he is able to stall it out. Another teleport. Faker does come back. And they'll now get their time. It is Guma that's able to melt these turrets. And Gen.G for the last 2 years have been the kings of Korea. But we know the world is T1's home ground.
What an incredible final game! At the brink of a comeback, Gen.G's final fight is shut down. And in such poetic fashion, they catch Faker. He was the first to fall, but then the rest of T1 rose to the occasion and turned the fight around. Once again, T1 will return to the World Championship final.
And I was getting flashbacks, gentlemen. I thought that maybe Gen.G were on that path to a Game 5, but it did not happen. T1 just said, no, you will not do it again. It is our date with Destiny. You guys, what did you think? T1 back at the World Final again.
Oh, Atlas, this team is absolutely unbelievable. I cannot believe they make it back. Well, they're making me believe, Jesus, that they're making it back to the final after coming into this World Championship as not the team we were looking at just like last year. It is an absolute enigma.
It was absolutely insane. And even then, when Faker was getting caught, I was like, this is 2017. It was Samsung who caught him in that same position on the Karma. But instead, it's a different form of T1 with different members that rally around Faker this time and pull it through to the end.
The reigning world champion will return to defend their title versus BLG now.
We'll get a chance to talk about, unfortunately, Gen.G's exit later, but I do want to first take a look at something that was crucial. He's on screen right now. Keria on the pike in our HyperX Reflex replay, because you were talking about you need a difference maker in a moment like this, and how many times has Keria been that?
And that's the thing, you thought it might have been Canyon on the Nidalee, but it was this hype pick, constantly catching out Gen.G, playing spectacularly in the early stages, roaming around every year. And I'm shocked he had this performance, because I looked at that man as he stood up from his seat, shaking, shivering. I thought it was Worlds 2022 with the way he was shaking. Like, that man put on a hell of a performance here today.
Yeah, as we see a nice little highlight reel of Keria in this game, he now is second in international performance assists. He just surpassed Xiaohu, and the amount of relief that you saw on his face.
Look at
he's so, like, it's such an emotional moment for these guys. They've been through so much this year, the pressure of defending their title.
Bring it on!
Yeah.
Finn, I see you.
Guma egging on the crowd. You could just see the entire coaching staff coming out, all of the emotion behind them as well. It makes it so much sweeter to overcome the adversity they faced this summer. Again, like, to have them be able to be one of the few teams go back to back, it's them, it's only them that have been able to do this. T1, the org, back back-to-back to defend a world championship title.
But think about how many doubts have had to be on them throughout this year.
Reckless world champion. It's a path.
Think about it, you come into summer, you barely scrape in.
Yep.
You go to 5 games against KT. You then you get knocked out by Hanwha in playoffs. You don't even make it to finals. Everyone is thinking this is the year T1 fumble, and we've got to look at a team like Gen.G to step up and take the mantle. A team like Hanwha, who were coming fresh off the heels of a first place in the LCK. But no matter what, it feels like once you get to internationals, it is T1 who will always represent the LCK and always be the team you have to take
That's
down.
why we predicted T1. And
exactly. Big brain
people who don't see it just don't see it. What can I
believed in the
say?
magic. And World's magic is so real. I feel like we've had so many stories like this. I mean, like you say, T1 were 1 game away from not even being at this tournament at all, and now they're back into finals. We also get BLG actually getting what they asked for.
Yep.
Bin wanted T1.
Bin was laser focused as he was watching this game. We saw him with Elk. He's ready. He wants it.
He wants the 5 games versus Zeus. What you were saying about that magic, it's true, and it convinced me, and that's why I predicted T1 also today. Also, you know, kind of, you can never count them out at Worlds, but last week being here, seeing the way they handled TES, right? And seeing how everything here was so electric, right? Those enigmatic players stepping on stage and kind of willing everything around them. I think it's crazy, and it's going to be such a sick fight.